Hey, welcome to the Scream 6 commentary. I'm Matt Bettinelli-Alpin, one of the directors.
I'm Tyler Gillette, one of the directors.
I'm Chad Villella.
I'm Guy Busick, co-writer.
I'm James Vanderbilt, co-writer and producer.
Wow.
Nailed it.
Nailed it, guys.
Nailed it.
That
Really
was-
well done, guys.
that's
Good.
That was our
fantastic.
third
Professionals.
take.
Now we're off.
Professionals. An hour and a half to get that. I think we nailed it. All right, so let me ask you guys, Radio Silence. You finished Scream 5, and you know Guy and I have started writing a second one. What is your, like, where are you like, I want to do this again? I don't want to, like, where are your kind of heads? Because you're exhausted at the finish line.
100% ready to jump in.
Yeah?
And begging William to give us some scrap, some crumb of detail about what was next. And the only thing that he told us was, it's set in New York, and my lips are sealed otherwise.
Yeah, that was all we got.
That was it. But it was enough. I mean, we were so excited by what that could mean.
And that's William Sherrick, my partner, another producer on the movie at Project X.
And then, guys, you had sort of had Samara in mind as you were writing this role. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, my recollection is 100%.
Yeah, we certainly did.
Yeah.
And we were walking to a dinner in Montreal when we were like, let's just call her and
I was
see
with
if
you guys,
she's
I remember.
game.
Yeah, you were like standing on one corner with her on speakerphone,
Yeah,
which I thought was
with
really
everybody
weird,
huddled around
like in
it.
the middle of Montreal.
There are a series of photos that you took of us and that we took of you,
Of
Jamie. I
absolutely
think
taking
during
photos
that
of you,
during
yeah.
that phone call, and she was super game to come and hang out with us for a few days. Fun fact: this is Jimmy Warden on the phone and Samara's husband and their dog Muzzy. Jimmy is a dear friend of ours and writer of Cocaine Bear.
No.
Do you guys remember the conversation about the accent?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember that, and she actually read a couple of lines for us both ways.
Yeah, she sent us the whole first scene with the American accent and
I
with
remember
an
just on
Australian
a text
accent.
chain, there were a couple of sound files,
Yeah.
and we all
Yeah.
kind of listened and voted, and it was like, oh, she's...
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think
Pro
was
accent.
ultimately driving it was like, how do we create, knowing that she's gonna have so little screen time, what's the most memorable start for that character? Like, what's the thing that just makes her pop on screen as quick as possible? And it's also the first time first American film she's done with her Australian accent, right?
Yeah, no, it's nice letting Samara be Samara.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said that this character is the closest she's ever played to herself, which I love.
I love that.
I remember, Jamie, you seeing dailies and texting us and loving that she was kind of taking the piss out of the out of
the
these
script.
lines.
Yeah,
that she was
just like,
kind
I
of
can't believe I said that
Yeah,
on the phone.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
it works so well. Like, it's just such a, I'm so awkward, even though I'm a gorgeous human being, but I'm so awkward on a first date, and it's so sort of, I think, relatable. And she does so much in the, I don't know what it is, 4 minutes she's on
Yeah.
screen.
yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
A voice for the voice.
Guy, do you I mean, I'm trying to sort of think back when we came up with the idea of doing an opening that is a handoff to a ghost face.
That was one of the first things we talked
I
about,
think so, right? Yeah.
And this was when it was early days. We hadn't mapped out the whole movie yet, but we were just kind of doing our blue sky, like, what
do you
could we
wanna
do
see?
in this movie that's different? What would make this exciting and fun for us? And the first meeting we had, I think, story-wise, was over a Zoom, and I'm pretty sure I started. And I was like, I just had this crazy idea that we start with like a traditional scream kill, albeit in New York City, so it's got kind of a fresh flavor. And then we do the throw to credits slash, but we don't go to credits.
Yeah.
And we hold on Ghostface, and then he removes his mask, and then we follow him. And you had this look on your face, and I was like, oh, he hates it. I'm stupid. This is all
That's my resting face.
his
bitch face
resting.
look, yeah.
So then he holds up a notepad, and written on it is Ghostface takes off mask within first 10 minutes. And I was like,
Incredible.
oh my God, we were really in
We
sync
were
on
both.
this.
That's
I
amazing.
think we share a screen brain. And I also I love the idea of opening in an incredibly crowded place
Yeah,
and having the
loved that.
audience go, well, how?
Yeah.
We know she's probably dead meat, but how is she going to be dead meat in a restaurant with 100 people in it?
Yeah, reading the opening, we were just floored from the first line because, well, Hasta El Fuego, the name of the restaurant, is also the name of our our text chain, and and a reference to Bad Boys.
Bad Boys for life.
Well, by the way, it started during the pandemic because like we
Yes.
couldn't all hang out and see each other, so we would all like talk about movies we all wanted to watch and then discuss on the text chain, and then the text chain became Hasta El Fuego, and then the restaurant became Hasta El Fuego.
Really, these movies are just a collection of dumb jokes taken too far, right?
It's
100%.
just for
At
us.
the end
It's-
of the day.
Yeah, we'll talk about Blackmore University coming up.
So this is one of
please.
this was one of the very few alleys that are in Montreal. This was weirdly one of the more challenging locations for us to find.
It was really the only one
Yeah.
that we found.
And it has been used a few times. It's been doubled as New York in a few things, but this was a thing. Finding this location, and weirdly talking to Brett, Jamie. I don't know if you I'll know this as well, but there are also very few alleys in New York.
Yeah, no, they're not. Well, this is also the world's widest alley, right? It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like usually it's like a tiny crevice between buildings, but there aren't that many in New York either. Yeah.
And this was challenging because there are actual apartment buildings on either side of this location. So and we're shooting until 2, 3, 4 a.m. And we've got Samara screaming at the top of her lungs. So we have to essentially pay everyone to go and stay at a hotel if they want to get a good night's sleep. It was
And
it
she's
was a
got
real
the
challenge.
most amazing scream.
Most
Yep.
amazing
Too.
scream.
Sorry, Samara. And then this guy shows up.
Yeah, and this was
He was cast pretty late too, right?
I think he was one of the last, if not the last person cast.
I think so. I
Right?
think that's
Yeah,
right.
I think
yeah,
that's right.
that
and
is.
Mason Gooding helped talk him into it.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
really good friends.
Yeah. And Tony still claims to have never have seen a Scream movie.
He doesn't.
Not
do
even this
horror.
one?
He's like he's.
I don't know this one. I
He's
think
seen
he's
this
seen.
one now.
He also was the last cast member to know who the killers were. I remember him walking into the cast screening still
Oh, nice.
not aware who the killers were, and we recorded his prediction, and he was
Besides himself,
He was wrong.
He knew.
Yeah.
He was right.
He didn't even know that. He's that good an actor.
It just
Like, it could
fully
be
takes-
anyone.
Fully takes on the other body experience.
So Blackmore University, who wants to take this one?
Well, this was so when we did Scream 5, I think we talked about in the Scream 5 commentary, Rich D'Elia, when he sent out sides for Sam, there's a whole monologue about I'm the daughter of Billy Loomis, but we really wanted to protect that secret. So he instead inserted the name, my father was John Blackmore. And so you have all these incredibly talented actresses sobbing in their auditions, reading the revelation that their father is in fact John Blackmore, which we found hilarious.
Another inside joke.
And then when we
Yes.
started working on this movie, we gave it the code name Blackmore. And then as Guy and I were writing it, at a certain point in time, I can't remember who said it, but somebody went, should we just call the college that? And we were like, yes, we should just call the college.
Yeah, because we were trying all like these like dumb fake New York. It's like
Yeah.
New
The
York
City University of
Exactly.
Brooklyn.
New York City
Right.
University, I think, was the first NYCU.
Yeah, and they just all felt so
right,
lame.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This also, this is what one of the things that's been so fun about this and Scream 5 is shooting these openings. They're so siloed from the rest of the movie. So like we shot the whole movie except the bodega, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we get to spend a week with just Tony and Samara as the only actors really in the scenes.
and it feels like a totally different.
And it's a whole different
Thing.
exercise for a week.
And fun fact, this apartment, Jason and Greg's apartment, is the same set as the Carpenter sisters' apartment, with a handful of walls moved and the entrance moved to the other side. So this was a set that was essentially tweaked and then recycled because we were shooting so late in production.
Greg, right?
This is also now the first Ghostface call, but in the original, like it was about halfway. I don't remember how deep were we into post when we changed it, but originally
Pretty deep.
the opening
Yeah.
call was also Ghostface.
Ghostface,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
we
then
showed it to people before. Yeah, the people have seen a version where Ghostface does the Samara call as well.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
we previewed.
That was a test. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a test screening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a situation where it felt like you were hearing Roger for too long a period. He's so wonderful that, like, by the time we got to this call, you felt like the punch of,
It wasn't
oh my God,
special
Roger's
anymore.
on the
Done that.
phone
Yeah.
had kind of come out of it a little bit. Jason Takes Manhattan, by the way. On,
This was the last
we're
minute
nothing but
find.
nothing if not subtle.
Yeah.
With a character named Jason.
With a character named Jason. Well, that's sort of back to
Manhattan,
front, by the way. By the way, Jason Carvey, just very quickly, is named after our good friend Jason Carvey, who literally didn't know about this for a year and found out about it opening night. Guy had a screening, and I was sitting two
His
seats down from
reaction was
Jason.
so good.
And he just went, "What?" and cackled for about 4 minutes. I think disturbing the rest of the audience.
I
who
was
didn't know
in the
us.
row behind and quite a few seats over, and I heard the reaction, and I was very happy.
He was thrilled.
It kept going.
It
His
could have.
laughter just
Oh yeah,
kept
he could
going.
have. By the way, could have gone horribly wrong. Like the week leading up to it, I was like, "Have we made a terrible mistake? Is he going to be really mad at us?" But
There was also, just to say it because it's lost now, but there was an MCU joke in here.
Yes.
oh, but it was written, by the way,
Written.
before
Yes.
Tony was cast.
Yeah, and Tony loved it. He had so
Oh,
much
nice.
fun with it. And,
Yeah.
and when he saw the movie, he said, "Oh, why'd you guys cut the Marvel joke?"
Like there's meta, and then there's too meta.
Last podcast on the left.
Yes.
Represent.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got that. We have No Dogs in Space, and We Hate Movies.
We hate movies.
Non-negotiable.
Yep.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah, we've got a
Non-negotiable.
lot of they're big podcast fans.
This scene also features one of my favorite props. It's a Russian nesting doll of the 9 ghost faces that have come before this movie that I believe William Sherrick ended
Stole.
up
The
with,
word you're
even
looking
though
for
it
is
was
stole.
you see, he
all of
grabbed
us
him.
called dibs on it, and it ended up in William's possession.
It's in his home, by the way.
Is it really?
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
I
did
know
it
exactly
home.
where it is, so I can help you out with
I
that.
feel like we should plan a heist.
We should do it in public and record it and put it on the
On the
DVD
special
commentary
features?
So that, yeah.
This was also one that the pace of this changed a lot. We had a lot
There's
longer
We Hate
version.
Movies.
We have movies.
There it is. But I feel because there's another room he went into, and I feel like this is the scene we probably messed with more than anything
I
in
think,
the
yeah.
edit.
I also think that just we were nervous it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Like it
Mhm.
just
Absolutely.
straight like, do you care? Because every other opening kill is someone you ostensibly don't want to die, and
Right.
this guy, you don't care what happens to him, and so that felt like a different kind of tension to play with.
Yeah.
Totally. And not only do you not care, he thinks he's on the phone with his friend, so it's this weird. Is he even scared? Like
Yeah.
he's a little bit nervous, but yeah, it was an interesting challenge.
I love that he thinks Ghostface could fit above the washer
Yeah,
dryer.
right.
He's like,
Detergent.
are
Yeah,
you
there he
in the
is.
detergent?
Colder.
You may notice too on the computer screen behind him the Woodsboro Truther subreddit. That
I've
gets,
never noticed that.
I never noticed that
gets
either.
used.
Oh,
It's really
really?
cool.
Which now exists in real life.
right.
Now,
That's
great.
the heading was late too, right?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
was late. That was
I think we sort of realized that there was one of the ingredients that was missing when we shot this was that it doesn't really rise to a really gruesome punctuation mark even with this.
I love that you don't think that rises to a
We've been
gruesome punctuation.
desensitized, okay?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's the
but
movies
that
did it to
head
you.
in the fridge belongs to our friend Tom Newell, who's been in our lives for a very long time as a friend and editor, and
we met him on Southbound.
Didn't he have to do that on his lunch break?
he did. We invited him to the Project X office to do that photo session, and he didn't know that he was going to be covered with blood and that he would then have to return to work afterwards. So.
Gotta read that fine print.
This B-roll was actually shot in New York the night before
nights
Halloween,
before.
2 nights before Halloween 2022 by our DP Brett,
Proud New Yorker.
proud New Yorker.
Okay, I think.
Mayor of
Henry
Brooklyn.
Czerny. With all his
Yes,
little ghost
with all his
faces.
little
This was
dolls.
this was definitely like a longer scene that kind of had to come down just because it felt like, but he is sort of this horror, but if you look around, he's sort of this sort of weird horror buff.
In the second to last shot in the scene, you can actually see Ghostface on the other side of the room,
Yeah.
which we talked about taking out and then decided it was a fun little thing to keep in.
And this was, I think, my first day visiting set
Oh yeah.
for the couple weeks I was there.
You walked in and you were like, a beard?
Trust issues.
Henry, this was another getting Henry in this too was really fun for us because we had such a great time with him on Ready or Not. It was like getting him and Samara, and this was,
Putting the band back together.
Putting the
a
band
little
back
bit.
together,
Yeah.
yeah.
So pretty early on, Jamie and I had come up with the idea that the sisters would have a conflict again in this, but it would be almost the reverse of 5, where in 5 the conflict stemmed from Sam having abandoned her and left her when she was 18, and this is more like she's become a helicopter sister, and she won't let her out of her sight. And they're both dealing with what happened in 5 in completely opposite ways. And we wanted them both to be sort of right, but both of them to be sort of wrong too, and that they're trying to get the other one to cope with it the same way that they are. Like, Tara wants her to stop living in the past. She wants Tara to confront it more head on. And then they meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it takes, you know, a killer to bring families together.
That was actually a late ad. The
Woodsboro
picture
Lutheran-
of
the picture of
Jack,
Richie.
Yeah, of Jack Quaid, wanting it to be really clear for audience members who maybe aren't as familiar with 5, to have seen his face before her phone rings and we see that he's calling her. So that was a late ad. We also shout out to Mike Shinoda for the title song. That was it's one of the hardest things that was on. It was on 5 and it was on this as well. The number of tracks that we put
Oh my
in
God, we tried so
to
many.
that sequence to give it energy and to make it feel like it has a little bit of grit and it's a little bit darker than the last movie. But yeah, it was. We're so thrilled with that.
I think also the difference between this one and 5 is on 5 it was like all of us like going through Spotify being like,
Yeah.
I don't know, can we get the right, what about this? And on this it was like, well, what if Mike Shinoda writes a song for the opening? I was like, well, that'll fix our problems. That wasn't an option on the last movie.
He came by the edit, watched some stuff, and I might be making this a little too short, but I feel like it was that afternoon we got the
Yeah, it was
track.
really
No
quick.
lyrics or anything, but just the like
Wow.
basically exactly what
Yeah.
you hear.
Yeah. And then you put it in the cut. Which
And we
was
put
just
it in the
like-
cut
we're
and
like,
it was perfect.
Oh,
We're
that's
like,
gonna
oh,
be
well,
great.
there you go. Speaking of music, this needle drop here, this Girl in Red song was kind of a last minute thing too, but it was nice. We had kind of we'd started going a spookier version here and it just
Yeah.
didn't quite feel right.
Yeah, it felt better to steer into the sister
To the emotion
story,
of
the
it,
emotion
yeah.
of it.
I also sort of feel like there's a thing that harkens back to the 90s screams where it's like the opening of this movie feels like needle drop.
Yeah.
It's like you're just getting pop culture on top of your story.
Yeah.
Kind of the whole time.
We have so many needle drops in the first 35 minutes of this,
Yeah.
and then basically none.
And then it's just Brian
Except-
Tyler
yeah.
and Red Right
taking
Hand.
this side for a
Yeah.
walk and
Yeah.
right hand. No, it's great. But I do think it balances the tone a little bit. I mean, one of the things
Agreed.
I remember us all talking about super early was we all got on the phone and I think, Tyler, you were like, okay, if Scream 5 was that, what is this? Like, what's the differential? And we sort of came up with the idea that this is the punk rock B-side. This is the
Yeah.
sort of the darker, taking a couple more swings. Even though it feels like a bigger movie, it's a little bit more, there are edges to it that
Yeah.
the fifth movie doesn't have.
Well, just a quick
think.
pause to that. We have to shout out Paul 2.0 here. This is Tim Robinson. This is a big deal for us. We're big fans. And he
Tim
came
Robinson.
in.
Who the fuck is Paul?
Yeah, he's the voice of the off-camera boyfriend. And he came in and just recorded it when we were in the sound mix.
It's also the biggest laugh in the scene.
It is-
it's
it changed
insane.
the
And you
whole
see with an
scene.
audience, it's
It is-
like,
It changed the whole scene, the Who the Fuck is Paul.
Yeah.
Just really added another level to it, which was
Which
fantastic.
I sent as an option in a text.
yeah, it was just like,
Right.
what lines can we record off screen? And in our text chain, guy wrote who the fuck
It
is
was
Paul?
really hard to not let it become a sketch too, because
Yeah.
he gave
'Cause
us
he could
so
do
much
so
good
many,
stuff,
yeah.
and we were like, I want to put it all in.
There was a version where you hear him off screen almost through the entire
Yeah.
scene.
It's like, guys, we still have to focus on the movie.
This was a real challenge designing these apartments, and it's based off of an actual location that we then sort of tweaked to really fit the layout that we needed, but creating all of these sight lines from window to window, and obviously the Danny's apartment to Quinn's room, all of that stuff we knew was essential, but
But you had to literally find
that place.
the
Yeah.
place to exist, and then reverse engineer it into the set, so that the ladder sequence made sense.
Shout out to the hot rod costume there, and Too Short,
Wednesday.
which has been a lifelong dream to get Too Short in a movie.
There you
so
go.
That's a big deal for me.
Dan Flash's shirt in the bottom.
There's a
bottom
Wednesday
left
Addams
there.
lurking.
There's the Wednesday Addams.
Before we,
I like that guy who was a walking ball pit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
walking ball
pit's
pit's
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
It was so fun to show up on set only knowing, I'd say what 50% of the costumes were going to be because we had conversation with Avery about
Avery.
them. And,
Rockstar Avery.
and showing up and being just so surprised and thrilled with all of the fun Easter eggs. It was like being in a fun house.
Truly. We're gonna talk about Avery a lot in this,
Yeah.
but we should just say
Avery
her
Cruz.
her touch on all the costumes throughout the movie are just really next level.
And the details that, like, yeah, Annika's dressed as a jack-o'-lantern, but the knife pinned to her hat, like all of those little things that just make it feel real and like character.
OKB, I believe, is the same fraternity from Scream 2. I also
And the
I-
one referenced when she says she might rush.
is the other is the Rebecca
Megan
Gayheart.
Van
And,
Zeta.
yeah.
Yeah.
Guy, I remember us talking really early about the idea of we wanted to have a house party at the top of the movie.
Right.
Like instead of, so it's,
Yeah.
you kind of get that idea out of the way.
Michigan.
This is
It's a fun way to start it
Michigan.
too.
It is.
To just feel like, oh, energy and excitement and like
college.
and it's
yeah.
real life. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's sort of an idea of what it could be, what life could be.
This is also the first stuff we shot, right? This is
Yep.
This is day one.
Day one.
Day one, day two is this whole scene.
This whole run, I sort of think we talked about, but it just sort of stops being a Scream movie for about 15 minutes, which I love.
Yeah.
Like it just becomes a story about these people in college.
It's one of my favorite runs of the movie. From
Yeah.
here to when the Danny Sam scene.
Yeah.
But it's really nice because it just makes you fall in love with all of these people.
Yeah.
And then everything else that matters so much more after that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
But again, it's one of those things where you sort of, I remember being like, are we okay without a
Yeah.
kill? Or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You just sort of get nervous of like that kill can't, oh my God. I
And
love
that's where
this so much.
that's where the cast comes in because they're all so damn fun
They're
to watch.
all so great.
Incredibly
Yeah.
charming.
So charming.
That was so we were in the edit, and this was a hard scene to edit because
Yeah.
there's like 4 different kind of stories happening and same time, slightly different time. And that find of them dancing, that was
Yes.
pre-roll basically.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were getting
Oh,
they were
that's
getting
amazing.
psyched
Hyped
up for the
take.
scene,
Yes.
and I was like, oh no, that's a great
Yeah.
way in.
Yeah, and when Jamie came into the edit, I remember you were like, let's try that. And it
Yeah.
changed the whole thing. Because otherwise we were just like cutting into a conversation and you hadn't met Ethan yet.
Yeah.
just,
And it does
was too
so much for
abrupt.
their relationship. You just
Yeah.
know that they're buddies
Yep.
right from the start.
And this Ethan's costume is, of course, from the movie Murder Party, directed by Jeremy Saulnier and written by Macon Blair, which is a favorite of ours.
Yes.
And it's such a wonderful costume, and it's like, of course Ethan would wear this.
And Mason's costume is Mason without a shirt.
That
Which
is
is
a
a favorite costume of Mason's.
hat.
Such a great costume.
But with the bandana, which
Right.
I think is a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Mason was very grateful that we shot this on day 1 and day 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
He'd been, yes.
I remember we went to I was up there right before you started, and we went to dinner, and he was like, "I can eat nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Literally nothing in this restaurant."
Also, Anthony here, the date rape Frankie, he really came through. He's
great.
Yeah, he embodies this character in
Yeah.
a great way.
I've said people online very upset that he is not murdered later in the movie.
Right.
Although at one point he
Well, he
did
was,
come back.
wasn't he?
No, he
No,
wasn't murdered.
no,
He-
back.
he,
He
he got
tased
later.
he got kicked in the balls again.
Right.
during
Yes.
that. Was he oh, he was tased in the balls again twice.
And I believe Chad's line after the second tasing was, "Oh no, your balls again."
Didn't it was in the park. It was the park
in the
sequence.
park
By the way, I
sequence,
think I'm in
yeah.
the background shouting, "Get him some ice!" There.
Yep.
This is one of our collective favorite scenes.
Oh yeah.
Like it
They're
just,
both so good and genuine.
yeah.
And probably the scene that changed the least from assembly to
Wow.
final.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
final cut.
We've now on the last 3 movies we go through our edit for 8 weeks or whatever, and then Jamie, you come in, and this is the scene that I remember us being like, "Don't touch it."
Don't. Well,
Don't
you were like,
touch it.
if he tries to change any of it, we're all gonna stand strong. And I was like, seems great. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I remember the other thing too is we're gonna get to Jenna lying back on the bed and smiling, and I remember like, I think that's like one of my favorite shots in the movie, and I think you didn't hear me, and you were like, wait, do you like that shot or
Yes.
not like that shot?
Yeah, we're
And I was
just
like, no, it's
ready
one of
to-
my- You're like, oh, thank God.
That's the shot more than
Loaded.
anything in the movie that I was like, please don't let anyone ask us to cut this.
Yeah, that's great.
This little moment here where you see that Ethan and Annika have switched costumes,
Costumes,
and
yes.
switched hats was something that they did on their own. They walked out as we were rehearsing the scene with that swap, and we loved it. It just implies again this closeness, this friendship in the group that you wouldn't otherwise feel.
You have to let me go.
They're both so good in this scene.
We haven't mentioned newcomer Jenna Ortega. I hope stuff really works out for her. She's so great in this. As is, by the way, as is this day player,
Yes.
who you think came in from Toronto, who I
Also
wanted
a
to
Jenna.
credit as sure, bitch,
Sure,
but I
bitch.
don't think SAG lets you do that.
And her friends, two of her friends are Melissa and Jenna's stand-ins.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't think this line ever changed, by the way, too. The
Yeah.
three,
It
the
did.
three
Three
tissues.
It plays so well.
That look. That look.
That look, and then Jack's reaction of,
Oh.
I better go.
Yeah, she doesn't want me here right now.
I think she needs a moment.
Second We Hate Movies poster. By the way, first We Hate Movies poster was put in post digitally because second We Hate Movies poster is out of focus.
Yes, this is the-
and I was like, this cannot stand.
It's
said
scripted as
non-negotiable.
non-negotiable. Billie Eilish too. This song, "When the Party's Over,"
Yeah.
also in the assembly, and
Yeah.
it was just we tried a bunch of other options, knowing that obviously it was going to be expensive, and kudos to the music department. They were able to
Yeah, it
pull it
worked
off.
out.
It's such a good song.
And it leads into the Brian Fallon song, which is the second song we tried in the upcoming scene here. This scene, the one that we're going into right now. And it's one of those moments where just you drop a song in and you go, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Don't adjust
Don't,
it.
don't touch that.
it.
Yeah. That was already in by the time I came into the air. That I remember. And I was like, oh, that's perfect.
It just worked. So good. And then that was Liana's first day. Just a little fun fact.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I was there for that.
That's right. That's right. That was like the day before
Yeah.
I got COVID and you had to go home.
So yeah, the Chad and Tara relationship was an early
Yeah.
decision, and it's kind of a swing. You're like, well, we hope this works, but it's like these two people are so charismatic;
Yeah.
they could have chemistry with a wall.
What's crazy is I think they only have one scene together in 5.
Yeah.
Just in the hospital.
Yep,
room.
that first
I think
hospital
literally
room
they're,
scene.
and I don't think they talk to each other in the scene.
Nope.
No.
No.
Technically, they're in the final scene together. He's in a.
That's true. I also don't think they
They're
talk to
both
each
on
other in the
stretchers?
final scene.
When they're both on stretchers?
Stretchers
Yeah.
with oxygen. But like, this is the cool thing about writing a sequel is these actors and you know what they're capable of, and so it was just sort of like. We really loved the idea. We also love the idea of a romance in a Scream movie. I think that there's something really
Yeah.
wonderful about that. And our version of that in 5 was Sam and Richie, which obviously doesn't work out that well. And so doing a real one with two of our returning characters was exciting to us.
Well, and I think this romance in particular that, they don't get the chance to kiss here.
Yeah.
They kiss once and it goes so poorly. And then the third kiss is also the moment that Tara finally gives into this idea of the core 4. Like
Yeah.
it arcs, like that kiss is everything. It's so important and so vital. This is one of those, that moment, the cock block moment was just
Yeah.
one of those where there's a lot of like little improv moments where these are just like three friends joking
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
with each other, and they were so fun to cut. It's
We
so
did
much to
write a
work
lot of
with.
the cock block
The
stuff.
cock
Just
block
I want to
is-
make sure that we get credit for the script. But
Yes.
cock block was said 4 or 5 times.
I did in fact.
Where is our Oscar?
I did in fact script that smile too. But
That's
you
right.
know, holy cow, what a smile!
Yeah.
The just really quick, the hand, her scar on her hand.
I love it.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
such a nice detail, and I remember we talked about it because these movies obviously live in a slightly heightened reality, extremely heightened reality.
Yeah.
Where wounds heal fast, and there was a moment we were like, well, maybe we let it go, and we decided to put it there, and it's such a nice texture, to just kind of like remind you of what she's been through.
Yeah.
Also, the little inhaler puff too at the top of the scene.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
nice little callback.
No, I remember when Jenna first read the script, I think she was like, where's my asthma?
Yeah, she was like, it was such a big part of the last one.
Yeah, I just want to keep that alive and, make sure it's not a thing.
And this was a Melissa.
I was going to
note.
say, all
Oh,
credit to Melissa. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Originally, they didn't really know each other, were flirty, and then kind of came together during the movie. And yeah, she came to you guys, right? Was
Yeah,
like,
she was like, I really want to, she had so many really helpful thoughts on this one.
Yeah.
That were really additive, and this was one of them. But there was something like this scene makes you just like Danny, but it also really makes you like Sam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also that she's not, and I think this was her thing too. It's like, I'm not living in a glass box like
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
I would, hook up with other people. Like I wouldn't just,
Yeah.
be
She's
like,
still
I'm just going to
human.
be alone and, closed off now. So she's still human, which I love. And I love Josh because he feels like someone who would not show up in Woodsboro. He's such a New Yorker.
Yes.
Like he's such a, you're now in New York. And he's got he's so great at being kind and honest and open, and also so great at, you're like, that dude is totally the killer.
Totally.
Yeah.
He also has that. I mean, he has that same thing Samara has, where he just is so charming, that he's not in the movie a ton, but
Yeah.
you just know him. It feels so lived in, his performance.
There was the Jason Carvey.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
moment he was like, what?
What?
And Greg
The laugh.
Bruckner. Shout out to Dave Bruckner.
When we were shooting the newscaster stuff, it was early on in the shoot, and he was standing on the street telling the entire plot of the first act of the movie. And I remember we were like, oh my God, there's no way this doesn't get out, but it didn't.
Yeah.
I love that moment where she
She's like,
gives
I'm
up on the
getting
two
a knife.
small paring
Yeah.
knives and
We're
grabs
also
the...
setting up the butcher block of knives for later.
Yes.
I do love the idea that the only weapon that she would have is a kitchen knife.
She's got a taser. I mean,
yeah, that's just fair. One taser for the two of
Not
them.
everybody can have guns. It's,
This was one of the
Only
more
the Legacy
challenging scenes to block, if I remember.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
A lot of
the-
characters.
A lot of characters, one room, everyone needs to kind of, the eye lines, making sure that it felt like it had movement and was dynamic, but
I mean, also, one of the things that was so fun about shooting this is that we had the core four who had become friends on the last one, and then the new characters, and everybody just on set and off just hung out and seemed to really get to know each other, and I think you can feel it in these scenes.
William talked a lot about too that the experience on Five on set was so familial, and everybody was sort of, especially because it was during COVID,
Yeah.
that everybody was together all the time. And I remember him talking to the agents a lot about in bringing in new actors, they have to be that type of personality. Like
Oh, yeah.
we're not going to bring someone in who's a diva or an asshole or any kind of that's going to upset that
that
balance that you guys
yeah.
created on set. And I think kudos to Rich D'Elia and William and everybody for making casting choices that totally are in line with that and add to that kind of presence and experience, because I think it comes through in the film.
Yeah, I think the thing that we look for more than anything when we're zooming with actors are they cool? Like, are they nice people?
Yeah.
Do you
You
want to
know,
hang out
do you
with
wanna
them?
spend time with
they're
them?
good. We already know they're good at their job.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
exactly.
I never deleted his.
And this is about to take us into Set Piece City for the
Yeah.
next hour.
Yeah.
Well, hope you've enjoyed the
City.
talking.
Welcome to Set Piece City.
Population?
Jack was really
This movie.
Jack was really involved with us on all the Richie stuff. Jack Quaid.
yeah.
He sent us pictures for this. He sent us all the videos that come up later. He did a bunch of voiceover we'll talk about later, but and it was really cool. He was really a very willing participant.
What was it like when you called him and asked him or told him? Like, because you had to tell him why. Like, you had to tell
Yeah.
him the reason
he was
needed it.
thrilled. He was like, when we just saw him last week at the premiere, and he was talking about how special it was just to be involved in this. And it goes back to that family thing that, has been really created over these movies.
And this was our last three days of shooting the bodega.
Yeah.
I remember, by the way,
Everyone had
William
we'd sort of wrapped the movie, and then we had this other
Go
little
back to it.
short
Oh,
film
one
to
more
shoot.
sequence.
Yeah, at the end.
I remember William calling me and being on the last day and being like, it's amazing, we're gonna finish early. Like, are we forgetting anything? And I was like, hey, you know how there's always a moment at the very end of the movie where you see Ghostface? Do you guys have that, right? And there's this long pause. He goes, good note. And that's where you get Ghostface with the shotgun.
No,
We
it
did
was
it last.
scheduled.
It was
but
scheduled.
The shotgun, but the shotgun was not.
Oh,
that was,
yeah. Get
you
the
were like,
shotgun.
get the shotgun.
You gotta
and
get the
it was-
shotgun.
Yeah.
Ghostface with a shotgun, Guy and I got so excited about, really. We were
did.
like, what if he has a shotgun? We didn't know where he was gonna have a shotgun, I don't think. Like,
No, I think it was that we already had a shotgun in the scene, and I think one day, I give credit to you, I think you were the one that said, what if Ghostface takes it and uses it?
I feel like I had that in my back pocket. It just was like, at some point, I'll be like, what if a shotgun enters the scene? 'Cause I
Playing your
love the
cards
image of
close.
it, but
Fun fact: that dude that gets stabbed in the neck, his name is Jean Frenette. He's a very famous very famous stunt actor who was in the first Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, no way.
No,
Foot
where is he in
soldiers.
Ninja Turtles?
He's
awesome.
he's one of the foot soldiers. He was like a
Was he, like, next to
a
Sam Rockwell
like a
kind of situation?
world-class taekwondo fighter.
This is him and Skeet both reuniting in this.
Oh, God, that's right.
Yeah.
And that cast goes deep.
Well, and this sequence establishes what he said on the phone, which is I'm something different. Like, and what was so fun about this and the whole idea of New York is that you're supposed to be safe once you get inside the bodega. You have people around, and he just walks right in, and if you get in his way, he'll cut you down. Establishes kind of our Terminator ghost face idea.
Well, and that was one of the things that I remember reading the script. Our like big thought when we read the scene for the first time was like, this should be a Jurassic Park Terminator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slow.
Right.
The movie
Yeah,
slows
he's just
down,
mowing
tense.
through-
Yeah.
yeah.
And it kept kind of evolving. Even this moment that's about to come up was like an on the day ad that Melissa, another great
the
Melissa.
the
The
Coors Edge.
distraction.
Yeah.
Coors Edge.
Coors
Coors
Edge.
Edge.
The non-alcoholic
famous
Coors
TM.
Edge. Yeah.
Coors
But that's
Edge.
how last minute that choice was. That was literally just a can that was there, and we were
Yeah.
like, let's just go with this.
Yeah. I remember in the edit this changing a lot.
Quite a bit.
Like, and not,
Yeah,
by the way,
it was
like,
a-
it's
yeah.
always this idea, but it was sort of how do you dial this in properly? Because if it's too long, it becomes unbelievable because they are an aisle away from each other. But
yeah,
if it's too
Ghostface
short,
doesn't feel scary anymore.
yes, exactly.
Right.
But if it's too short, you lose the tension.
It's
So-
also
Yeah.
the needle drop or the
the
radio.
sound coming out.
Yeah, the song on the radio really sets the mood for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a mega, just in terms of the special effects work too. The shelf that had to be built, the rigging the exploding refrigerator, all of that stuff. The chip bags blowing up. There was a lot of effects work that I think we got everything on one take. I don't think we did 2 takes of any of those squibs or anything.
And also in the evolution kind of the drafts as we got here is this used to be much smaller and part of a larger action sequence. They actually were going
That's
out
right.
the back, getting into a cab,
Cab, yeah.
and then Ghostface kind of crashes the cab, and it
I believe the cab flipped. Am
the
I
cab
wrong?
does
Cab
flip.
flip.
Yeah. Well, we like to give the biggest
Yeah,
version.
Ron
and then
Lynch
Ron
read
Lynch.
that. It was like, not a chance.
Ron Lynch. So I am convinced that Ron Lynch, who's our amazing line producer, hates cars and has a thing against people in cars because they're tough to shoot, and so managed to figure out a way to make a movie in New York City where you never see anyone driving in a car.
I will say on the last one, Ron was like, you guys don't need to shoot this car scene like this. And
No,
we were like, yes,
exactly.
we do. And then we finished it and we're like, didn't need to shoot the car
Yes,
scene like
exactly.
that.
Why did we do that?
But he was trying to get it out of the movie, and I was like, they can't teleport.
This was weirdly one of my biggest worries, this scene. It's, 3 characters in a small room, and
Yeah.
it's all credit to the writing and the cast that it just turned out the way it did. It became one of my favorites in the movie.
Dermot, who has now entered the movie, he, we're all giant fans of his. And I think, Jamie, you've worked with him before.
Yeah.
And he came to set and was just, it's all everything you want in an actor, where he shows up and he's like, I am ready. I have ideas, and I'm going to give you a lot to work with in the best way.
Yeah.
And dialing in his performance was so much fun in the edit, because he's so aware of what his role is in this movie.
Yeah. Well, he's such a pro, but also it's, I also feel like it's really a credit to you guys. Like, an actor going that big is putting themselves in your hands, right? Which is
Yes.
like,
He-
I'm going to
very trusting.
I'm going to take a risk here, but I also have to trust you guys to not make me look stupid.
Yeah.
And I think, he's so much fun in the third act
Oh
of
my
this
God.
movie. And you also said was so happy with like where, because he gave you
Yeah,
a
he
lot of
was-
different levels and options and stuff like that.
There's a full Gonzo version that we couldn't
Right.
cut. Yeah, no, he was
This
thrilled
is
with
not
the way
the
it
full
turned out.
Gonzo version.
No,
is what
no,
you're saying.
this is not. But he gave it to us, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Kirby Reed's giant boots. It's so amazing.
They
like,
are massive.
just Frankenstein boots.
The boots should have gotten their own credit, really.
Yeah.
Was there ever any other sort of thought of how to bring her back, or was this one of those like, she loved that she's law enforcement?
No, yeah, we had a couple of different versions where we're just like, we really want to include the character in this
Yeah.
movie. And we wanted to include her in 5, and it was just so overstuffed as it was.
Yeah.
There was no room, but here it's like we have the real estate, I think.
Yeah.
And when we landed on the FBI thing, it was like,
Makes so much
Ta-da!
sense.
Yeah, we never wrote any other versions for her. We definitely had a
No.
couple conversations. Weirdly, we had conversations about who she could be before we came up with what Six was. It was just like, well, what if she's doing this?
Yeah.
What if she just
That
from a
makes sense,
character
yeah.
perspective? Because we didn't want to. And landing on, I think Guy, it was your line, the monsters line, which I love, is it's the I don't want to be afraid of the monsters. I want the monsters to be afraid of me. It was like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. Like the fact that this. I don't like how she's got her gun, by the way, in the back of her belt. I'm like, it's not good firearms. But you know, the idea that what happened in Scream 4 would change her to the extent that she would go on this path in her life seemed really kind of interesting and cool and unexpected.
No.
There are a lot of short people in this scene.
Yeah, the New York skyline represented in this.
Which is always super easy to shoot, by the way, right? When everyone's a foot apart in
Yeah,
terms of height.
It really is. It really is a fun challenge. Yeah, you're always like a lens wider and a lens tighter when you're doing your coverage.
He's right.
Weird sort of meta thing. This location where we built the precinct was Redefined. The company that did our visual effects used to be their office.
Oh, wow.
And it was a police station before it was their
No
office.
way.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that until we found that out like a month ago
Yeah.
about the police station.
This is low-key my favorite moment in the movie, guys. Missed punch and then...
I remember going, is this too much? But the Terra punches that were like, no, this is pretty cool.
This was an interesting moment when we were in the sound mix. We were something about this wasn't working, and we were temping with something that just ultimately didn't feel right musically, and so we went and we got the theme. The Gale Goes Around Back, I think is what it's called, right? From
It's
the
the
first
theme.
movie.
It's from the original.
From
Right,
the
it's-
original.
yeah,
And
Marco.
that was the little thing. I think what we realized is that callback is what was so fun.
It grounds you
and
firmly
grounds
in
you
Scream.
in the
Yeah.
Scream
Like-
universe in such a specific way.
That's literally a quote. You don't think
I really, it's one of those things that like I love that you guys did in the script where, you leave the last movie with Gail almost feeling like she's finally changed.
Yes.
And then starting this movie with no, she hasn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gail is going to be Gail. And I
Yeah.
think that I look, I don't think it was, I think it was a very nice book in terms of Dewey. Like, I don't think it was, but I think that there's something wonderful about, it's not that she hasn't changed, but, you are who you are. And the fact
Yeah.
that she's unapologetically herself and a career woman and powerful and a journalist, like, Gail's gonna Gail.
And
you
it gives
know?
her and
That's
Sam
great.
somewhere to go as
Yes.
as characters.
And we also
which is
post
so important.
post Dewey's death, we didn't want to see her wallowing and being sad, and there's this fun aspect of Gail, being this ambitious and sort of driven
Yeah.
person that's not going to go away. And I think she has evolved, and that comes out in later scenes, where it's a warmer Gail that you saw in 5. But she's still Gail. She's still got those aspects
Yeah.
of her personality. So I feel like, merging those two things was sort of the challenge.
It's so nice in this one to see everybody, and especially Gail, actually deal with the events of the last one.
Yes.
Which I think is often kind of you skip over that stuff. And
Yeah.
she has so many Dewey moments in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun little fact here: the knock that you hear that gets Dr. Stone to the door is actually Ty West's knock from X.
What?
Pearl.
Pearl.
From
Yeah.
Pearl.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Also, Dr. Christopher Stone, named after Chris Stone, our Spyglass executive, who I was just like, I know will secretly be thrilled about this.
So, tidbit here, back when Dr. Stone was a horror buff, and that was really set up in the first therapy scene, the movie he was watching here was Stab from 2022, aka Stab 8, directed by Ryan Johnson. And he was sort of quoting along with the movie.
This is all McGill University.
By the way, on 5 too, sorry, the needle drop for Red Right Hand was such an argument. Not an argument, it was like we knew it was in the movie, we couldn't find the right place for it for so long. In this, you guys were like, it's here, and it's at the theater, and it never changed.
Never
It was
changed.
perfect.
Yeah,
Just worked. Like, go with it. This was we've talked about this a lot, but this was Jasmine showed up on this day just fully loaded and
rocking.
knocked it out of the park so far on every take that we were done with her side of shooting in like half the time that we had allotted.
I think this was ended up being our shortest shoot day.
Yeah.
Which is insane because there are 7 people in the scene. 6
It's not
people
a small
in the scene?
scene.
Like, it's
Yeah,
not,
huge.
like,
It's a
there's
long
page.
scene.
You got
Yeah.
7
Huge
people
page
you got to cover
Yeah.
in different sizes.
We're in a franchise,
And it's a long scene.
and there are
And this the speech didn't change much either from the first draft. I mean, it was really,
I think we just threw some things in
Yeah.
as it evolved, as the script changed.
Oh,
and
no,
we were like, oh, we
absolutely.
can make a joke about that too,
Yeah.
but that's it, yeah.
There are also some very like sneakily effective VFX shots in the scene. We added some city behind Mindy and this side, to sort of see the depth there, and then the opening shot. You could very much tell that it was a very European
looked like
designed
Hogwarts.
campus. Yeah, that we
Right.
changed to look more like New York.
Characters, cannon fodder at this point. Usually
is producer William Sherrick somewhere hacky sacking in the back here? I saw him like dressed for it. So
Yeah,
I
there
don't
was
know if he
there
ever
was
made
a
it in the
lot of
movie.
B-roll
Yeah.
shot of all of us throwing the frisbee. And
I love that Chad is taking notes here now. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's like he didn't take notes last time, so he wants to make sure he's up on everything. The other thing I love is when we get to it, Mason is so excited in both these movies to be a suspect. Like whenever it's like, we're all suspects, he always smiles like, this is pretty great, I'm a suspect.
died, so their franchises could live on.
That means it's not just the friend group.
Any of us could go at
Also,
any
the
time.
two things that Tyler always laughs at are Jack Champion saying, am I in the friend group?
It's the best.
And the guy with
It's
Bunny
the
ears
best.
later. Those are
My
the two things, no
favorite,
matter how many times
am
I see
I
it, Tyler always laughs
in
at.
the friend group.
So good.
It's so genuine. It's
so genuine.
It's like so sweet, and it's so Jack. It's like not. There's no perform. That's just Jack.
Yep.
It's
Am I-
so
am I in the
so
friend group?
lovely.
Ethan,
The Jack thing is funny because he was written as very much the shy, dorky nerd.
Yeah.
And then we met Jack Champion, who is in no way a shy, dorky nerd. But he was he was so passionate. He loves Scream. He was actually Ghostface for Halloween the year prior.
That's
No way.
amazing.
Yeah. And he sent us a bunch of pictures that he took when he went to see Scream 5.
Oh,
Just
wow.
like he like took a bunch of pictures in front of the poster, being like,
Oh, that's rad.
yeah, it's,
Which is a normal thing that you do.
And then,
when
like,
you
yeah,
go
6
see a
months later,
movie.
he's in
Like,
the
yeah,
movie.
That's so awesome.
Well, you guys sent me the video of the moment you told him that he was one of the
Oh,
killers.
yeah, tell that story.
Oh my God.
Well, we didn't tell any of the killers they were the killers until the costume fitting. And then Avery would basically do like a Columbo, one more thing. And we have one more.
One more
and then
costume for
bring
you to
out
try
the ghost face.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
He lost his mind.
him and Liana both. I don't remember how we told Dermot, but him and Liana both like lost their
Dermot
minds.
knew because I think to get him involved,
We had to tell
Yeah,
him.
Dermot
because
read the
his
whole
role
script
up
at the
until the
beginning.
third act is really pretty lean.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
And so we had to kind of say, look, you have a big part to play. You're not gonna feel that until the third act.
But I think also he only got to read the first two and then was told, it was like, you have to trust us that it's a great third act and
Yes.
it is you, but we literally can't send you the third act. You have
Also,
to kind
is
of trust us.
Dermot the only actor ever not to wear?
Yeah, he never puts on you never see him in the movie.
Exactly. You never see him in
Although he is
in the robe.
unmasked.
the
Yeah.
ghost
Billy.
face. Yeah.
Wait, no, just Billy.
Yeah, you never see Jack in the robe, right? Do we see Jack in the robe?
Quaid
Yeah.
behind Mindy.
And guess what?
Yeah, no, but I mean like.
I know what you, yeah. It's
Oh, like in
with-
the
Oh yeah,
reveal.
no, yeah, it's
Post
true.
reveal.
Like, take,
No.
Yeah, to take it off.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe.
This I would like to shout out to the script for Kirby quote Noshin
Noshin' a hot dog.
Nosh and a dog.
Interior precinct. Kirby noshes a dog.
Yeah. By the way, there was a longer cut where you guys held on her eating half that hot dog.
It was so
was-
fun.
and she
you
was
know.
destroying it. Like,
This was really exciting for us too. I remember like texting you guys. Oh, we're doing our first murder board.
Yeah.
So cool.
I thought in the movies.
This also took just like figuring out what was on this board
Oh,
and how
yeah.
to lay it out was a like no small exercise. It took a lot of time to just kind of figure out who was where and how we were structuring it. And
also, kudos to all of the former ghost faces because they all had to say yes to their photos being used.
yep.
Yeah.
Like every single one had to like see what we were using, make the call. I remember with some of the agents, they were like, "Well, can you use this photo?" And we were like, "Well, that was taken 10 years after they allegedly died."
On a red
Like,
carpet for the
we
opening of
can't-
some other movie.
yeah. Tim Oliphant has to be this age.
Whoever's doing this is leading.
So is that?
And
is
it
that-
has to be from Go.
I was gonna say, it's from Go.
Is it
right?
from Go? I think it is from Go.
There's very little of Tim Oliphant from that era. Very few kind of candid photos.
He's a private man.
Very private man.
I wonder who Ghostface
Jeez,
is.
frame
I don't know
him
who Ghostface is,
against
but
the
it
murder
also
wall.
looks like she's like, I am going to suspiciously walk away.
Yeah.
She does two great suspicious walkaways here and then in the theater at the end.
Yes.
It's like, I have business to the left.
Yes.
Like,
And the funny thing in that theater, there is nothing.
there's
So-
nothing over there.
She's walking into a wall.
Into a wall.
That's right. Just walking to the wall.
So this is the beginning of, I think, one of probably all of our collective
Yeah.
favorite
Oh.
sequences in the movie. But I love how even just reading this for the first time, it starts. It's such a heartfelt, emotional scene about everything that's being dealt with, and it just gets hijacked.
Yeah, I think it's
like
like the
me,
language of these movies. You're like, no. The more they smile, the more brutal the,
You're like, oh,
the
this is
outcome
gonna
is
get
going
worse
to
and
be.
worse, yeah.
Also, really loved. This was one of those moments in the script that it's a minor detail, but this idea that they're all having a sleepover, that they're all staying safe together. It was just such a warm, wonderful idea.
We joke a lot about how Annika's just in the other room the whole time reading a book.
Also, kudos to Annika. Be like, yeah, it's great. You're all friends.
The core
there are
four
5
and
of us here.
Annika.
Also, they just prepared a whole meal with no knives.
That's by the way. That's
We had that conversation when we were talking about what are they cooking.
Right.
We were like, well, Tara's
spaghetti
got to
and
be
salad.
picking herbs for a salad
Noodles
and
and
not
salad.
cutting
It's a
things.
stew.
you can't make a stew without knives. New York's one reporter is on the case again.
Back out there.
really was.
on
He's
the
been,
streets.
actually, is
on the
oh no,
beat.
that's outside the building.
That's Elm Court. Yeah. where it's at.
yeah.
The
That crew, by the way, really don't do a good job because someone falls to their death 10 minutes later, and they do not capture it.
Yeah, they were wrapping up. They were
Yeah,
on,
we
a,
gotta
on
go.
a break.
Save it for the next shift.
This was a fun scene to block too. You guys wrote a lot of these scenes in this movie that were like really fun to block because they were so well written and then just visually had to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And so to figure out who's where, like, okay, they're in the kitchen, and then, getting them over here in like a nice organic way. But the scene that's coming up here, a lot of improv. By far the most
Yeah.
improv I'd say in the whole movie.
Yeah, I was there that day too.
The core four.
Yeah.
Right.
But it
And-
works. That's
and-
what you want.
Yeah,
you
and that's
want
what
so
you want.
naturalistic,
You want it
natural.
to feel
Natural.
like these are real
Yeah.
friends, and they're really like just they
bonding.
trust each other and bonding. And I remember when we were watching it while we were shooting, going,
How are we going to cut
"This is going to be a pain to edit." And then when we got to the edit with Jay was like, "I spent 4 nights figuring that one out."
Smashing my head against the monitor.
But it works.
It works
It does,
so well.
yeah, it does.
Hey, just a reminder, not a single person in this room hates you. Okay, we have all been through some fucked up stuff, and we're...
This is also, I mean, I think Jamie, Guy, you guys you do such a good job of getting these characters in the script to a place emotionally, and then having a joke that isn't cynical, that actually is still about that emotion. I think one of the things that we've found works so well in this movie is that even though Mindy's sort of taking the piss out of the scene a little bit, it's still about the same thing. It's not cynical. It's not about something else. And I think that's one of the reasons why you really feel this friendship so deeply here.
Well, and also Sam confessing that she's sleeping with Danny, and then the reaction she gets is one of support.
Yeah.
This, by the way, was a late edition. I remember
Yes.
which I love.
Great,
which is
Jamie.
we had the conversation. It's like, what would really happen? Because in other movies it's like the sale of ghost face masks have been banned, and I was like, not in this America, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
they run on them. You kidding me?
God, and it sets up the subway so well.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of the ghost faces on the subway, and all those pictures on the TV. There's one of all of our post team, you and River, Matt, right?
Yeah.
And the Sherrick family.
This is one of my favorite moments
I know.
of New
I
York.
see you,
Like,
motherfucker.
Oh shit! This makes me so happy.
And that's Jack Champion in the Ghostface costume. He kept begging us like, I want to come to set. I want to put on the robe and the mask. And this was one of the few days we were actually able to make it work schedule-wise.
By the way, whenever you have a movie where the actors have a day off and are begging to come to set,
Yeah, you're doing
that's a
something
pretty
right.
great situation. Tim Robinson. About to get murdered.
That was
join me,
Jack.
babe?
That was Jack Champion in the robe there. That's
Yeah,
his-
in the walk into the
Yeah.
bathroom.
And here's where you're just yelling at them, please answer the
Yeah.
phone.
Well, I also love that Danny's like, what the fuck are they doing in
Yeah,
there?
right. Yeah,
exactly.
That was a very late ad, right? That was a
What is
because
with
we
you
kept having
people?
that reaction. We were
Are they
like,
high-fiving at
Yeah.
a dinner table? This was a really early idea, I remember, Guy, which was the be scared of the banging sounds the beginning of the movie.
Right.
When a character is like and gets it wrong, and then banging sounds later, they also get it wrong.
dialing in those bang sounds.
Oh, I'm sure.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and also like having to do ADR, I'm sure with Liana, it's like, all right, now
Yeah.
make with the sex sounds.
we left the room. We were like,
You're
we'll
like, please,
give you
we'll
some
figure
space for
ourselves
this
out.
one. This is one of those fun movie moments where it just kind of slows down in such a nice way.
This, by the way, to me is the Jurassic Park moment. It's the run.
Yeah.
And figuring out the choreography on this too was like, okay, they're all gonna get attacked, but how
How do Chad
how do you
and
split
Tara
them up?
leave?
How do you
Yeah.
scare? How do you make people believe that Mindy's in trouble? And the knife block is empty.
Also, this one low key, one of the challenges of this set was figuring out the way that the doors would open. I know it sounds like a small
God.
thing to
Yeah.
state,
I remember
but
that. Yeah, we
that
had to-
door, knowing that it had to open out so that Quinn could be thrown out.
Yeah.
And also knowing that for Ghostface to get through the door, we needed it to open in to the room, the other one to
So
open
that they
in on the
could
Jack and
barricade it,
Jill,
yeah.
so that it could be barricaded.
Yeah.
And it was really a very long conversation.
And also just trying to establish the geography of it. Like the Jack and Jill bathroom,
Yep.
you kind of don't know about in advance. You kind of have to go with it.
Yeah, you see a little bit of Tara's room on the other side, but there's totally.
One of the things is these are secretly action movies. You know, like they really are in a lot of ways with these sequences. And so the beat-to-beat choreography of that is always kind of tricky. And also it's easier to write it on the page, and they're like, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yep. Good luck, guys.
I love that Ghostface kick. I remember we found that in
Yeah,
editing,
that was a
and it was like,
find.
That was also a fun moment, that wide shot of the kick. We'd originally designed the set for that wall to fly away, and then on the day realized that it had been built as a solid wall instead of a flyaway. So we just had them take a hacksaw to it and cut the
Get
wall
out the saws.
and remove the wall so we could get that wide shot.
I was, as I said before, on set for this day, and this was the first day when he's trying to break into the room, and I could see how relentless the stunt performer was, and how it was legitimately scary, even to the actors, and how they were getting bumped and nudged by this
Jasmine goes
dresser.
flying.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I think this one's gonna be really scary.
Yeah, there was literally after calling cut on every take, it was, is everyone all right? We'd
Yeah.
sort of shout and make sure that
I think they got some
everyone
bruises
was
on them.
safe.
Oh,
Yeah.
they got
Oh,
bruises.
there's so many
Oh.
bruises after
We
this
should
part,
say
too.
too, Max, the stunt performer who does 90% of the Ghostface work,
Holy cow, he's good.
he's great, and he brought something different to it that at first we were like, we have to like gut check that this is right, and then once we all agreed, like, yeah, this is like, let's steer into this, it just took on a whole new life.
He's wonderful.
He's so
Yeah.
good, yeah, and he really brought such a level of performance to it that was great.
Losing a lot of blood.
The old blood sponge.
Oh my God.
Love a blood sponge.
I remember this sequence also in the edit was because you had a lot, which was
Yeah.
great, but it was sort of like, okay, how are we really gonna, do we start in the bottom? Do we start at the top? I love the shots of Chekhov's dumpster.
Yeah.
You're kind of subtly telling the audience, there's a dumpster down there, right? But you don't want it to be like, look out for that dumpster.
No, it's
Yeah, and the challenge of making it not feel like the scenes that happen in this room and the scenes on the ladder are separate, that they're still
Yeah.
connected,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah.
there's always, the tension's always rising. We're not,
'Cause you're
we're not
going
taking
back
the
and
air
forth.
out at any moment.
I believe
between
that moment-
stage and go on.
That was a Jasmine ad,
was.
right?
Yeah,
That
the
was,
kiss.
she on the day, and we loved it. We were like, that's great.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because what we're talking about, it creates another layer, and also we still have to keep the pace up.
Yeah.
And it was finding like how long can we live in that moment without losing the pace.
And also without it feeling like
Like
I
the
mean,
scenes
you're,
ahead
you're,
of you.
you're pretty sure the last one to go is probably going to die. You
Yeah.
don't want it to happen,
Yeah.
but you don't want that to feel like a long goodbye where you're like, oh, she's toast. You know?
100%.
So Devin, during this section, I think she did 34 falls off the ladder.
Oh my God.
And her legs the next day.
So bruised.
I mean, everyone just was so down for how physical this was, and really wanted it to feel real. They're all so awesome.
Well, it's a testament to how you guys shot it, how the actors performed it, and the stunt work and everything. But that I
Also,
still,
how it was written.
I said, I
Testament.
was trying to be humble there.
That's what I'm here for.
That's true. But just I get choked up.
Yeah.
It's just hard to watch.
Every
It's so-
time.
Yeah.
She's also, I mean, because she's not in the movie much. So to
she's
make
not.
that kind of an impression in the scene she's in, and then this moment, and have people be like, this is heartbreaking, because it is.
And it's Devin, it's Melissa, it's Jasmine.
It's the dumpster.
Oh,
It's the dumpster.
This I loved.
Dumpster
I
is a great
loved that
performer.
scripted moment too. That the fall. You're anticipating the fall. What you're not anticipating is how
the head smack.
graphic the punctuation mark at the end of it's going to be. You know, typically you cut away from stuff like that, and I love that this movie, that even on the scripted stage, that it was just going to show you the thing
Also that it
you
takes
don't want to fucking see.
Like the
about
fall,
20
the fall's
seconds
not
to
enough.
fall.
yeah, I love it. It's like our
well,
four.
She falls about 4 times.
The magic of the movies.
Okay.
And then back on the practical location that we replicated on stage, which is still blows my mind that they were able to replicate it so perfectly on the
We also
on the
just
stage.
cut over. There was one of the few scenes that got cut from this was right before this. We had a scene with Dermot standing over Liana's body, and it just felt too like it didn't hold up on rewatch.
Yeah, and it was also like, why are you showing us this?
Yeah.
And it felt like it was like, see, she's really dead.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to it being enough when you see her body come out.
And then we ended up her body coming out of that bedroom. We ended up in VFX adding that throat slash just to really make it clear that she was dead.
That she was dead, yeah. And I think it's more believable without that.
Study hall with 100 other people. You can ask any of them.
Fuck.
Oh my God. Who?
Annika and Quinn.
Mindy, I'm so sorry.
Step the fuck back. You're at the top of my list.
The other thing too, like scripting and I'm sure shooting it, was like this scene was really tricky because it's so many different things happen in the scene. Like 3 different people show up in the middle
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
scene
yeah,
at different
yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So it's sort of got like these, it's like 5 movements. It's like you get Sam and Danny, and then you get Ethan coming in and getting thrown up. Then you get Bailey walking out and them going over to him and having the conversation.
Then Kirby.
Gail comes in and they
Then
have a
yeah.
conversation. Then Kirby comes in and they have a conversation.
I mean, this was the scene that I think was one of the most daunting for us filming wise because
Right.
of exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
no,
we were
it's
like,
a beast.
and you're shooting outside, so you can't control the weather. So it's like
Yeah.
there's all these things that go into that like just on the day that for us you
Just practical challenges.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
just like we have to like get through this. And then it didn't help that when Mason throws Jack against that
Yeah.
corner van, it shattered the window. In
amazing. It's superhumanly strong.
gag
Which
reel.
you can see on the gag reel. Yeah. But I think that this number of movements is really important. One of the challenges of these movies, and I think one of the things that makes them great, is that something brutal like what just happened to Annika can happen, and then the movie sort of resets itself tonally, and it's really this moment between Tara and Gail
Yeah.
that happens.
It sort
that
of
there's
starts
a
there.
little bit of a joke made, a little bit of a smile, and now you're sort of back in the tone, but you need that number of movements to,
You're also
to get back on
the
track.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the gang's back to
And
back
the
to
plot,
the
now we're doing
mystery.
plot.
Yeah.
And then Kirby's going to come in with more plot, and then joke.
Joke,
Yeah.
and then you're out. You're back on the case. Yeah.
She's with the FBI.
One of the really nice sort of things we found in the script, and then when you guys on set was the rivalry between Gail
Yeah,
and
like
Kirby.
yeah.
Just-
Have a gun, Gale.
Okay, fine.
I had to fight to keep Zygote in, I remember.
I know, it's such a good line.
I'm thrilled I won that fight.
They use fake names to rent this place. How did you find it?
This was a really interesting thing too, to figure out where this back alley, the rear entrance of the theater is in relation to the actual theater. This is a totally separate set that is exists where we shot the finale, the big sort of final day, you know, the aftermath. But love how they dressed that alley to feel like you're stepping into the world of the shrine.
This is also a directorial nightmare because, again, you have how many actors?
Oh, gosh. So many.
I mean...
Too many.
And all of this dialogue and all of this, like... this movie, more than any other Scream movie, I think, is there's a sort of a Scooby Gang aspect of it.
For sure.
As they sort of go through it. The other thing is, this evolved in the script as well. Originally, you know, it was a warehouse with all of this stuff in it. And it was always stuff from the actual murders, not the stab thing. So I think I saw something where one of you guys was like, it was from the movies. I think it was always stuff from...
It was... My memory is that it was, like, not all of either.
There was a mixture?
Because I remember us having
remember
so
that.
many conversations about, I think we need to choose a lane on this. But maybe...
You could totally be right. Guy, do you remember?
I think it was always the Scream stuff.
I always thought it was the Scream stuff, and no, it was.
I know there was a stab clapper, which we
there's the
was in
clapper
the
the original cut of Stab 3, but it wasn't. But regardless of that, like it was always sort of a warehouse because we were like, where can we set a final sequence that's really cool that hasn't been done before? Like that was a big thing for us. And then I remember you guys were scouting, and you were like, so we found a movie theater, and I remember thinking to myself, oh no, like it's Scream 2. Like I was like
we were reticent because of Scream 2, and
really
then
because of Scream 2.
But then Jamie and I went there to check out the location so we could kind of
Exactly.
retrofit the script to it. Saw this place and we're like, oh, this isn't
I
going to
love
feel
this so
anything like
much.
this is going to feel very
and
different.
I think the idea of bringing that warehouse feel to this space, making it feel like a museum and not necessarily like a theater, was such a cool handoff between those two ideas.
It's also just such a great location and space. Like it's
It's
like
so
you do
nice.
what's right for the movie that's in front of you, and also that allowed you guys to be. I remember you guys being like, so what if we used the screen?
Yeah, what if it was something that could move and sort of
And
reveal
move, go up and down, and then you
reveal
can
the
show the movies.
costumes, yeah.
And then I remember Ron being like, I'm sorry, what movies are you gonna show that we have to either get the rights to or make ourselves?
And that was a long conversation, and then ended up being Adam Sand and Adriana King, our assistant and Ron's assistant.
So great.
They went out on like weekends and after hours and shot everything you see on the screen.
It also, I think, one of the things that we really loved about this theater location is that it could feel like there were different spaces that these different kind of tones and moments could exist in. You know, these 9 robes surrounding Sam in this scene, that it could have a really different vibe, a really different feel.
Well, you guys just did such a great job with the layout. Because again, we were like, great, it's all in the theater. I don't know where. And everybody would be like, well, should we put should the Ghostface stuff be on the stage and down there? And then is stuff in the balcony? And how do they, like, there was so many aspects to this that you did such a great job figuring out.
It's those things where you know, it's that whole like possibilities are limitless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yay.
I mean, even down to the Billy robe being in a glass case. I remember
Right.
we were like, Sam has to see
his
his
reflection.
reflection.
Yeah.
How is that reflected if we don't make that costume feel more special? So it got put in a glass
Also,
case.
shout out to Skeet Ulrich.
Yeah.
Shout out
Just
to
for,
Skeet.
you know.
Being down to come and play.
That's so
for
awesome.
A few, 45 minutes of shooting.
This was a scene that we loved in the script. And I feel like the scene itself never changed, but the location of it changed
Yes.
probably 3 times.
A bunch of
Oh my
times,
God.
yeah.
It was
just
in the
kept-
van for a while because it was this thing where it was sort of like, how do you? And again, it's Scream logic, right? So it works, but it's like we were like, well, if it happens here, it happens right after Annika died, and you know what I mean? It was sort of like, would Mindy be in this headspace? And it was like, no, this is how these movies work. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I was always afraid this would get cut because it doesn't move the plot forward in any way, but it was important to me because It's like, why bring Kirby back if you don't have this scene?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes her so memorable. One of the reasons she's so memorable in 4
Yeah.
is her encyclopedic knowledge of movies and the moment in the Ghostface call where she just rattles them off and you're like, well, she's got to sit down with Mindy
Yeah,
at
you're
some point.
expecting that moment.
Guy and I, left to our own devices, by the way, would have written like 7 versions of that scene and put it all through the, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that would have been a runner.
there's just so much, there's so many, in a great way, characters to service and stories, lines going on in the middle of all this. Loved all of the stab posters.
All the stab posters.
Yeah.
Just, and Jenna and Melissa. Melissa's so good in this movie.
The sister dynamic in this, just the way, you know, we talked a lot about, like, during the edit, just trying to find as many places where they have, like, their glances to each other
Yeah.
and those looks. All those just, like, unspoken things that are so, they're just, the two of them just brought so much to that relationship, and it's so awesome.
Where's your mother in all this?
Dewey theme coming up.
Oh,
Yeah.
get your tissues ready.
Dewey theme.
Another
Broken
shout
Arrow.
out, Jay Perchidney dropped that in
Oh.
the assembly, and we were like, yes.
Yep, that's where that
Perfect.
It choked up. Yeah, Amber, my wife. Amber, my wife, not Amber the killer, choked up when she heard it the first time. She's like, "That's great."
This is one of my favorite pieces of writing too. You guys have done this little bit about losing somebody and being lonely and attaching yourself to another loner. Like it's such a, again, it's this arc. Like I think it was unexpected for me on a read that there would be so much to play with Gale and Sam's relationship specifically, and it's such a beautiful moment. They connect there.
That was a longer scene too, right? There
It was a little bit longer, but it was sort of we kept kind of like shaving off lines.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, the tighter this is, the better it is. Like,
Yeah.
and all of it was the performances were great. Like it was just like one of those things where it's like if you just press it down to the core of it, it feels. And the same thing with this, I think. This was longer.
My life being afraid of monsters. I wanted the monsters to be afraid of me.
I love her read on that.
Yeah, me too.
And this was another one that just, we sort of thought of staging it in multiple places, but ultimately, knowing that a big chunk of the third act is going to take place on this balcony, we knew we had to get up there for a quiet moment.
My son is in the background of this. I think your son,
Yeah.
Matt, is in the background
Meyer
of
is
this.
in
Meyer
this.
is William's son is in the background of this.
The
My son
Parthenon is
Charlie.
in background of this.
It's, by the way, my son Charlie saying, "Mom throws better than you." Can be heard in the background.
Wonderful.
He was thrilled with the line.
Doing the phone tracing thing that never works in the movies.
Cheetos, shout out to Kenny.
Kenny.
To Kenny.
Yep.
This was one of the more challenging scenes to shoot. It was the hottest day of the year in Montreal when we shot this, and
Chad's in a
can't
sweatshirt.
have an air conditioner running while you're shooting in a small space like this. So it was just very wildly uncomfortable.
And this van is parked basically exactly where Mindy was giving her speech to the
Oh, did you
friends
just sort
earlier.
of pull it up?
Yeah, just
yeah,
yeah,
just
it's-
like brought it
coupled
on.
those
Yeah.
scenes.
yeah,
You
so
also-
it's just shot right there.
Also, everyone's eating Mountain Dews and Cheeto in an enclosed space.
Right, yeah, exactly.
A lot of smells in that.
I also-
that van.
We joke a lot about how Gail can't come because no press, but these kids can come.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. No. Well, look, they're part of there. I think it's like, oh, well, you guys are bait, so we lose. There are a lot of kids. We lose a couple of you. I will say, I just love the fact that it's hiding in plain sight.
I know,
That
it's
Richie.
literally
It's clearly
Richie's
Richie's
phone number.
family. Like, they're calling with Richie's phone.
It is so good.
What is on Dermot's earpiece?
Favorite shot of the movie coming up, guys.
Where is he? Where is he? There he is. Turn to the camera.
It just gets me. Oh god!
Every
it just
time.
is so good.
I've never
It's
seen this
so-
movie where you didn't burst out
it's
laughing at the guy
so
with
good.
it.
In shorts and bunny ears. What an insane thing! What an insane thing we've done.
Geolocation coming through right now.
I also this is one of. I love that Mason and Jack don't have any lines, but they are so funny in this scene.
Yeah.
Like it's such a good.
Well,
it's a
I can't-
testament to just how memorable they both are.
I can't remember why, but I do remember that day that Jasmine had a joke when we finished, and she's like, "I had all the lines. Why'd you guys take twice as long to shoot it?"
Do to keep them safe.
Here you go, baby.
Bit of trivia: there was a moment where in the sequence where Chad and Mindy were doing a Gale and Dewey from 2 and running around and taking people's phones during the phone call and trying to see if they could find Ghostface. And Tara, I believe, was in a version off on her own, and that's when Frankie
Yes.
snuck up on her.
This was a huge thing. They were in 2 separate locations.
Yeah.
Sam was in one part of New York. Tara was on campus. Like, it was a crazy
that's
kind of...
right. So then Tara ended up tasing Frankie again. And then we had a moment with Chad and Mindy where they're standing next to a van, much like the way their uncle dies in 2. Van door flies open, and it's just a red herring. It's a misdirect. There's, 2 people coming out with a Frisbee or something, but...
College stuff.
College stuff.
So
this is sort of necessity is the mother of invention, because we were told we couldn't do any of this.
Do any of it,
and
yeah.
so the fact that it just is the van, I think it just moves the story along.
Yeah, that was one that was just schedule-wise. Like, how can we get? I remember it was how can we do it in a day and a half, and there was how can we do it in a day, and how can we do it in 3/4 of a day?
Yep.
This was all a practical location. This was one of the more challenging sets to find. It was a place that we saw really early on and fell in love with it. It felt so much like Gale, that it was this grand open loft space and very, very much unlike the apartments that you've been in and unlike the kind of houses you've seen in the other movies. And but it presented all of these challenges because of the number of windows. You could only shoot stuff at night. So we shot 4 splits, tinting during the daylight hours, and then rolling the blacks up. And
Splits are for the uninitiated. What's a split?
yes, a split is when you're essentially splitting your day and your night work, knowing that you have to capture some night stuff. So you typically start a split around 2 p.m. and go until 2-3 a.m.
And this was no joke. The last week of June into July, was that when it was?
Yeah, so there were
because it was like the longest
6
days
hours
of the year.
6 hours of darkness.
And you're in Canada.
Oh, right.
And you're as far north as you can get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
very
you doing
little,
night
very
stuff?
little nighttime in this fishbowl.
I remember being like, well, you could tent it during the day. Like, well, we can't do that. Then why are we shooting, at this location? We'd have to VFX all the windows. So it worked out so well.
More proof that Ron Lynch hates cars. We had a lot of cutting to the cop car.
Yeah, a lot of cutaways
need
to
it.
driving.
And then, there was something that was going to get entirely lost from that, too. And we're like, can we at least see them get into the car?
Yes, can we have a car for them to get into? We're not going to see them get out of a car.
Oh, and they were going to pull up, too. And we're
He's
gonna
like,
see
well,
them...
absolutely. Of course we can't have a car pulling up to a curb. You insane? Courtney's such a gamer with this.
Oh, my God.
Incredible.
I mean, just
Incredible.
and it's also, again, it's not a set on a stage, so it's like those are concrete pillars she can run into. That's a real glass door, like
That's a real edge of
real
a building.
furniture,
That is a real rooftop.
That's a real, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't fall off the rooftop.
Our stunt coordinator, Alex Cadieux, he is so incredible. He spent so much time in these spaces, and then what they'd do is they'd replicate the layout of these spaces in our production office using cardboard boxes and pads, and just go hog wild. They choreographed, I think one version of this fight that they choreographed was like 3 or 4 times longer than what you see in the movie. And, it's our job then to kind of pare it back and make sure that it's something achievable. But they had so much fun working in these practical spaces.
Dewey picture from Scream 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also, just to sort of say it about Courtney too, like I remember when we were writing this, like some of the lines I was like, this is some pretty mean shit. Like Ghostface saying last century's heroes, like that's some mean shit. And I was like, we'll probably have to take out some of it. And nope, she was down for all of it.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Courtney had so much fun on this one. She was like just wonderful the entire time and so excited to, she loves what you guys wrote, and she was so excited to do it all.
it's so awesome. And she's so great.
She's so good.
I remember, by the way, Brooks getting thrown through the thing. There was a whole, well, we can't throw, it wasn't you guys, but it was like, I remember getting that thing. We can't throw the body through the thing, and you have to figure out another way to have him it kept changing, and every day when we were like, oh, we're back to throwing the body through something. It's the same with the ladder, remember?
Yeah,
It's
the
like,
ladder
we can't
did
actually use a ladder. You have to come up with some other way to get them across. Okay, now we can use the ladder again.
Yeah, and that's really, I think, just part of the process of you start shot listing and blocking, and then you realize, well, The alternate version of this is much harder to do than what was ultimately
the one that's going to save us time.
Yeah,
is not going to save us time.
but you have to go through that exercise.
Also, Michelle designed that bookshelf and that divider, so
Yeah.
we were able to like figure out which part he can go through.
That's so great. Also, I remember Guy and I really early being like, we can't believe Gail's never had a Ghostface call.
Yeah.
Shocking.
It's right.
It truly was, but it plays so well this time around.
I mean, I'm thrilled.
It was nice. It was nice that we had that
thank
one
you, Kevin.
for 6.
You're the best.
Way to save it.
Then you kind of wonder, how does Richie's family know that she's never had a Ghostface call?
Right, because Richie's an enormous fan.
Guys.
Richie's an enormous fan, knows everything
I'm going
about
to point
these
out all the
things in these
flaws in our
movies.
movie.
That's the, well,
No,
you know.
my
let me
head-
know when you get to one.
My,
Clearly
uh,
flawless.
I love this
Flawless.
shark
There you-
attack.
Oh,
Yes, like,
so great.
In my head canon, she wrote in all of her novel or in all of her books that she's never had a Ghostface call.
Head cannon.
there you go.
That I've never had a Ghostface call, and I'm not tempting fate by writing this in a book.
The book that she hits him with is her new book, Requel.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
By the way, Brooks is based on my longtime friend Brooks Krause. Shout out to Brooks.
If we love you, we murder you.
Yep.
That's the just so
Sorry, Jason Carvey. Sorry, Brooks.
This will cut away of the glass. That's our assistant Adam's hand.
Yeah.
Nice.
Shot at the police station.
By the way, Brian Tyler's score.
Oh.
First time I saw it with his score, this moment I gasped.
Yeah.
Even though I'd seen the movie 100 times, and even though I know, I'm like, she's not gonna get stabbed in the face. With Brian's music, I was like, oh no! And Sven Falconer, by the way.
Yeah, Sven and Brian. I do love that we stick to the as soon as Ghostface has gone through a door, he's just out.
gone.
He's out. He's gone.
No one is
And
pursuing.
He never comes back, by the way.
Fun fact: that door that he runs through is actually a tiny bathroom, and we just
put
we
the
just
signs,
put that little stair placard next to it and added the sound effects of him running down some metal stairs.
I love the idea.
That's like the briefing room sign in the police station. I'm like, well, this is where they brief, I guess. I don't.
It is
Only for briefing.
legit like 4 feet by 4 feet. It is
the
one of the
smallest
smallest
bathroom.
rooms
Yeah,
you could
it's
ever
like
be.
He's just quietly washing his hand.
I just love the idea of him Max just running. It's Max, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, running in there, and there's this tiny little space, and then he just kind of has to stand there and look in the mirror for a couple minutes. And
Just wait. We were shooting all of this as the sun was coming up, and it was a race against time.
Yeah, it was the
Oh,
most
man.
indie this movie felt.
Yeah.
These few hours.
It was very like we just gotta go. But
Yeah.
and it was Courtney's last day. So as soon as we wrapped this scene, moments after this shot, Courtney had left the movie.
on an
Or she
Yeah,
was on
she's
a,
on-
she had a, was
yeah.
having a mimosa on the
She had
balcony.
Yeah, we had
mimosas for everybody. On
She brought us,
the
she got
entire
everybody
crew.
mimosas. The entire crew.
was that shot the only Brett is leaving the movie?
There are a couple.
No,
Okay.
Brett leaves the movie for a long time.
So should we explain that,
Yeah, please.
guys?
It started on Ready or Not. The pullout when Alex is over Daniel's
yeah.
body, and I think
No,
it was
it's when Grace is in the hallway. It's when Mark leaves Grace.
There are two.
Yeah,
two.
but
Oh,
the
there's
first
two.
one was
Okay.
Mark leaves.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, Mark leaves Samara.
and Jamie coined the term "Brett is leaving the movie."
This is Brett Jutkowitz,
our RTP. Is Brett leaving the movie? where's Brett going?
And then
it's
in Scream 5, when they all are, by the picnic tables at the high school, and they all decide to go places, and then the camera just begins rising.
Brett
to
leaves the
check out
movie
the
vertically
greens.
in that moment.
That's Brett leaving the movie, and then Brett leaves the movie there, and then Brett leaves the movie. I mean,
We should say
Such an
Brett
amazing
really,
DP.
Yeah, he's incredible, and he knocked it out of the park
Oh, yeah.
on this one. Like, oh my god, we ended up using the same lenses we used on Ready or Not.
We did, yeah.
and
Only
it's, to
Scream
me,
movie that
too,
wasn't
this
shot
looks so
anamorphic.
different than 5. I mean, in
Yeah.
a wonderful, I love how 5 looks, and I love how this looks, and I love that they have different visual identities, but it's such an interesting
You have to let us protect you this
thing.
Yeah, we actually did when we were choosing lenses, we did a blind taste test because the ones we wanted to use weren't available. They
You
had,
tasted each lens.
We tasted each
Just
lens.
lick
but
a lens.
Lick a lens.
Brett he tested 6, and typically, we know what's been tested, and he was like, I want you guys to choose a set of lenses based purely on the feel, and this was the one that we all just loved.
Yeah.
The Cook S4s.
We could use that though.
We talked about this scene so much during the pre-production
Yeah.
with you guys, and who should have the idea, who should inception the idea, should Ethan inception it, should it be, and we've talked about this in the edit a lot. It's so nice that this is a Tara moment.
Yes.
That it doesn't just, because it'd be so easy to just make it obviously Sam.
Exactly,
Sam.
yeah.
And there's something it just spreads the love a little bit in such a nice way and really makes it feel like a team.
I just love the let us protect you.
Yes.
Like there's something
Yes.
felt so, the acknowledgement of what Sam's been through and done, but also the, you know, when I fall down, you pick me up. When you fall down, you have to let us pick you up.
It's so nice.
It also builds off of the Kirby scene with Tara too, because like it's taking the proactive approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Going
Jenna-
after the monsters.
Jenna really enjoyed that she was like, so I'm just out here talking about killing somebody with a bunch of cops walking
on speaker?
Very
I'm gonna have
valid
this
point.
on speaker? Okay, cool. And that Ethan does incept it. That Ethan starts
yes.
with the, if we had a place
If we just
to
could
go.
hole up somewhere.
Hold on. This is all of us
Evil
chanting,
dies
evil
tonight.
dies tonight.
Evil dies
Evil dies tonight.
Little homage.
Little.
Yeah. Guys, this is a set of all sets.
Still,
Yes.
that blows my
Yeah,
mind.
this set is
I do
incredible.
remember
This is a
early
build,
on you
the
guys
entire
going,
thing.
well, I mean, like, we have to shoot in the New York subway. And it was like, I don't think the MTA, like,
Yeah,
but
they're not
separate
gonna
and
allow
everything else, they're probably not going to be psyched for the murdering.
Well, apparently there is a like the Bowery Street station has been decommissioned and is
yeah, no,
only
no.
used to shoot now. It's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. But this was a huge, amazing set built by your wonderful production designer.
Yeah, Michel Laliberté. We were gonna travel a decommissioned path car up from New Jersey and learned that it was so heavy that it would buckle the stage floor. The stage floor couldn't actually hold its weight. So ended up building it. And they molded everything. It's like down to the smallest detail. It is a replica of a New York subway car.
They even had the gum stains on the where you're standing on the floor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pea
was
stains, gum
incredible.
stains, like it was.
Yeah.
But it was all
stains.
clean. It was all like production dirt, so it felt like the only subway you could walk around and actually touch the surfaces.
And so you guys wrote in the script that there's all the iconic slashers and
Oh, dude.
and that was so exciting to us. And then when we got out to Montreal, we got a hard, that's never gonna happen, guys.
Well, that's, yeah.
And then, we were like, can we, anything we can do, please, please, please. It's so important that these aren't just generic costumes. And then it kind of went away for a week or two, and somehow we got back that we could use them all. As long as they don't do the thing that they're famous for, we could use anyone we wanted.
Paul Neinstein, fantastic producer, my partner, and lawyer in a former life, went to work on that.
It was a Paul special.
Yep.
Paul,
It's a
that's
Paul
a Paul special. Because I do remember, like, this, first of all, first thought, best thought, this was literally the first thing Guy and I thought of. Before we knew what the movie was about, before we were like,
Subway
New York,
scene.
and then we looked at each other and went,
Subway.
scene. And then as we wrote it, the idea of having all of these iconic slashers within there. But in my head, I was already to the place of they're never going to let us do it, but let's try and see what comes back.
It's so, just like removing myself from having made this.
Right.
It's such a cool thing as a movie fan, especially a horror fan, just to see.
To see it all.
Yeah.
Jamie, Guy, I'm curious. Is there a scene in this movie in particular that feels very different from what you guys scripted or imagined it to be? Like,
What did we fuck up?
Yeah, that's
No,
really
but like,
the- all
I'm
right, hold on.
so curious about the
We
translation.
should have started this. You should have asked this question 30 minutes ago because this is going to...
We could have gone on a run.
Yeah. No, I mean...
I feel like your scripts and we're so close to the process of
Yeah.
and everyone's so involved. It's so communal that I feel like part of the work is all of us getting very much on the same page. But I'm always curious of that translation.
Well, I think this goes back all the way to Ready or Not, that the reason I love working with you guys so much is that it's almost like you can see into my head and you put what's there on the screen.
Yes.
And Ryan Murphy, my co-writer on that, it felt the same way. When we visited set, we're like, oh my God, this is exactly what we pictured. And to be honest, it's been the same on the two Scream movies.
Yeah,
You know, it's, you guys just, I don't know, there's something about this collective, the five of us, that's just, we see things the same way, I
Hasta el
think.
fuego.
You know?
Hasta el fuego forever. No, and I also think I love this Danny Stemming front shot coming up. It just says everything about his character. But I think it's like stuff that's different than we envisioned is stuff that evolved because we all talked about it. Like,
Yeah.
so it was,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
never like, what's that?
It's never a tangent. It's never some separate
Well,
thing.
it's one of my favorite things about the way we work too. And again, this goes back to Ready or Not. If there is something that that is in the script, we trust you guys enough to know that it's there for a reason. And if we have a question about it, we literally just call and say,
Explain
just talk
this.
us
Just
through
walk
what,
us through this. What are we missing?
Let's have this conversation.
Yeah, and it's never a situation where you're like, I don't like. It's like we don't know if we like this or not, but explain this because we may not be getting it. And you know, half the time it's like you're like, oh, that's great, and the other half the time we're like, oh, maybe there is a better way. Like, and that sort of sends us all off on a different journey to find the better way. But I think it's always like the theater is a perfect example of that, right? Where it certainly wasn't how it was originally scripted, and there was stuff going up ladders and not ladders, like multiple staircases and stuff. But like the evolution of that sequence led it to a better play.
Right.
But going back to what Guy said, there literally is, like, I remember picturing that Ghostface with a shotgun, like Terminator 2 shot in my head while writing it. Never said that aloud to you, and then saw it in the dailies and was like, of course, you know.
I think we also just all love
Same
the same
touchstones.
movies.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Testament, you see that on our text chain.
We all rip off the same things.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
I also think, just like really briefly to sort of say, like, we've been so well protected creatively on these movies by, you know, William and Paul, my partners, by Gary Barber at Spyglass, who's just like, tell me the kind of movie you want to make. And this was, I mean, and Paramount too, like there was so little noting and meddling and what if we cut this whole sequence out. None of that happened on this movie.
No, we keep saying that this is basically director's cut. There's nothing we changed. We didn't. They asked us for deleted scenes, and we were like, no, they're not in,
for a
they're not
reason.
in the movie for a reason. Like we don't. Yeah.
This, by the way, is my personal nightmare. Not even the getting stabbed part, but just being trapped on a train.
being on a
something.
train.
Being unable to talk around that many people is just, it's such a common nightmare.
It's just such a and we Guy and I also talked about, like, if Jason Takes Manhattan is the train, or Joker is like, I'm alone on a train with people. I'm never afraid of that. I'm afraid of this.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to say, like, it's not because I saw some stuff about, like, it's New York where nobody cares, and I'm like, no, that's actually not how New York works. People do care, and like, like New Yorkers frequently try and help our characters through, like, the store clerk, the people here, like.
And it's Halloween specifically, we think, that is like the vital ingredient in this scene, because it's one of those holidays that I think gives people permission. Like, you can get away with more because of how crazy the holiday is, and that was such a vital ingredient in this feeling the way that it feels.
This was both of their last day of shooting, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was hard. It was
Yeah, it was sad. Things started getting sad. Everybody was going home.
We actually started adding setups because we didn't want to. We didn't want to wrap people.
There's our Jennifer Jolie Easter egg over there.
Yes,
I'm not sure if
we
anybody's
talked a lot
catching it.
about what was going to be up there. I remember. Also, by the way, Fuck This Franchise was Jasmine.
Yeah, Jasmine.
Which was
Jasmine.
great.
That was it. And she only did it once, so we only had one take
Oh,
of
it's
it.
so great.
And this, the street in the background on the right there is where Tara and Tony meet in the beginning, just in real life.
Yeah.
What? Don't trust anyone, remember?
This was something we came to a little later, because originally Josh was in the.
He was going to be in the theater.
In the theater, and it was sort of it was almost like too many cooks, and then this felt like a real.
She's being smart.
Smart moment.
This makes me love, like, once you get through the movie and realize that Danny's not a bad guy.
Yes.
I just love all of his choices. Like,
Yeah.
he
doesn't
listens
fight
to her.
back.
He's
He's
like,
saying,
I'm
be
out.
safe,
Like,
I get it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, it's so nice compared to Richie, who seemed like such a nice guy and was a
Exactly
horrible
right.
piece of shit. And
Yeah.
this guy is just such a nice dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We find out later that his plan was he was going to go to the cops.
I'm gonna
and
go
say,
get the
my
cops."
girlfriend and
Yeah.
my girlfriend and her friends
You
are
guys
going to kill
fucking-
somebody.
You're relying on one cop.
You're doing the vigilante thing, but
Just dealing with these two shady
The
people.
little one wants to execute
The
somebody.
little one.
execute someone.
Yeah, maybe I need to get away from this murderous teenager.
We're safe here.
I love what the everybody's doing in this scene. How you can feel the weight of it, and you feel the, like, there's a little tension, especially with Kirby.
This was a moment too that I'm so glad Jamie and Guy you fought for. There was a moment where
Is this to the left?
in production in prep where we were like, there was a question of whether or not they should go to the theater earlier in the story.
Right.
Because it felt like, oh well, let's see all of this at the end. And I'm so glad that you spend time there earlier and then you come back to it in a different context.
It was
I don't know what the movie would be.
It was a huge scheduling issue, I remember,
Yeah.
because we were it was at Jasmine. It was like if you only shot the theater for the third act, you didn't have to schedule for Jasmine being there. And we were like, just
That's not
we
the reason
need
to
her to
do
be
it.
there. You
Yeah.
need
I remember when we had all those conversations about the movie's changed so much at this point. You can't get here and,
then be
also
like,
have the moment
"Whoa."
of woo.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it cannot slow down at this
Yeah.
at this moment. It needs to start ramping up.
I love how much
That look.
caked on blood we just left on his knife.
That's right.
We wanted Gail to be there too and see all the stuff.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Courtney
Right, yeah.
doing that. Yeah. Sam Carpenter tank top, third act alert, by the way.
I know.
Yep.
It's-
And the
Again.
Happy Birthday Roman thing makes me so happy.
Me too.
I know.
love that.
It's
Happy
so
Birthday,
great.
Roman.
Kenny's top story.
Kenny.
And this was where to place all of these props was another
yeah.
thing that was just a very frequent topic of conversation. How to stage all of the items so that it felt like a bit of a maze,
Yeah.
a bit of a museum.
Because you're going to have to use it for action.
Gonna have to use it
later.
for action later. Yeah, there was a whole lot of planning that went into that.
Dermot Mulroney approaching a car, opening a car door, but not
Does not
driving
get
in a
in.
car.
Does not drive the car. Yeah, so this is one of those things that, again, just as a movie lover, I get so excited when there's movies in movies.
Yes, no, absolutely.
And
The
so to be
Cinema
able to-
Paradiso version of Scream here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is, by the way, Jack Quaid voicing Ghostface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you pitched him up a little bit, right? For the. Or did he just pitch himself
He
up to
did,
be a little younger?
yeah.
That's pretty great.
And that's Adriana who was getting stabbed. Ron's assistant who shot all of that stuff with Adam, our assistant.
When Tara goes, "Oh, all this stuff looks so old," I'm like, I remember all that stuff.
This is a very
Our
sweet scene.
ancestors built this.
Movie theater. I also love how Chad will always wear, will rep
Yes.
whatever educational institution.
good.
He's a brand man.
It's nice to just have some, like,
Yeah.
some romance in these movies.
Yeah. I mean, she's gonna get stabbed in 10 seconds. yeah, I mean,
for a very short period of
But
time.
it's this like great, like
Stab you in
nothing
the
good lasts for very long in these movies. I think that's part of the language of them. It's so fun to play with.
yep.
You just know the second something good happens, that the bottom's gonna fall out.
Yeah, Mason gets a lot more action in this one too.
Yeah.
He does.
I like how well he holds his own
Yeah.
for so long, and you're like, he's gonna win this thing. And
Yeah,
then
and then
stabby, stabby, stabby.
It's Kirby. She's a killer.
Props again to the stunt team for they designed some of the most fun sequences.
I talked to somebody who
Knife
really loved the
swings.
movie and was like, I hated myself because I thought Kirby was the killer for 5 minutes.
I know.
And I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
And then they
I
were like,
betrayed
no,
Kirby."
no, I betrayed her. And this again also is like, who's got what knife, who's got what gun, how many bullets are in each gun.
Oh, yeah.
Smile for the camera, motherfucker.
I remember writing alts for.
For Mason.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Pictures
how
of
many
that
camera
motherfucker.
puns can we come up with?
Yes, we
On
had
the
so
day.
many camera puns.
Another Asta El Fuego text chain. There.
Exactly. I also remember Guy and I, when we went up there and saw this hallway, we're like, oh, yes,
Gotta
they
do
have to
that.
run
That
it.
hallway's so
It's
good.
claustrophobically tight.
And it's red. It's like
It's red.
deep blood
yeah,
red.
yeah, it's not,
burgundy
we
the
didn't
whole way
paint this
around.
part. Yeah.
No.
This I also love because I feel like
They're working together.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that. Yeah, like just
Yeah.
teamwork fighting Ghostface.
I love that kick.
Yeah, that was Jenna. She was like, I feel like I should be doing something. And we agreed. And so,
Yeah.
how did that kick?
Take this gumball machine. All right, so we like to stab Chad. I
Yeah.
sort of feel
Do
like
not
as a
count.
group we need to own that.
Do not count.
Yeah, and yeah,
He's,
and
he's
I
become the new Dewey.
He's the
I
new
remember
Dewey.
Yeah.
I just do remember through the editing process, people going, he can't live. Like he can't, and so to the point where we digitally removed
We
stabs.
VFX'd a bunch.
Yeah.
Of,
Yeah.
I think it was 14 stabs in the original
Original,
cut of
yeah.
that, and now it's down to like 7.
It was the wind would
That was
whistle by
same as
him
last
every
time,
time
right?
he walked.
And Mason in that scene, I mean, he's so great in the whole movie, but he gave so much in that scene. That was actually like really hard to shoot.
Yeah.
Like just kind of stepping that out. It's very short in the movie, but it was a lot of work.
And Guy and I had discussions early whether or not he would survive that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just practically, but just narratively.
Right.
But ultimately, you know,
And now things get confusing.
yeah, a secret feel-good movie was definitely the brief.
Knock me out.
I remember us talking about all that too at the end, like who comes back, who's there, and I think I love that we all agreed that this one should make you feel
Yes.
Yeah.
good.
Happy.
Like,
Yeah.
And there's something so fun in that the movie is a twist on itself. The thing that Mindy gets
The twist on a
wrong
twist? Yeah.
is that
they
everyone's
live.
expendable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, me.
That gets a laugh every time I see it. Yeah, with a crowd.
This is the beginning of what was probably the longest chunk of shooting. Scene 87D. It was.
I love you still remember that scene number because it haunts you.
We cycled the alphabet 3 times with camera setups. And it was just, wanting to make sure that all of the characters, killers, Carpenter sisters, that they all had a point of view in the scene, that we had something usable that we could cut to in any moment, knowing the page count and the blocking, that, we could always keep it interesting visually.
Liana surviving, being dead, and coming back was one of my favorite things because it was my favorite murder mystery of all time is Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And that's the trick of that story, is there's a character you think is dead who's sort of orchestrating it. So that was a really early sort of how can we
take someone off
How
the
can we do
table.
that? And that's why we're able to actually have the characters grouped together much more during the movie, where usually in a Scream movie, everyone's
Someone
off
has to
doing
be out of
someone
the
has
thing.
to be, 4 people have to be missing for it to kind of work. And so we love this idea of underneath it all. It's like they're all together all the time, so how is this occurring?
It was a good way to get off the suspect list.
So unexpected.
You guys cast, Jack Champion and Jack Quaid look so much
look
like
so
brothers.
much.
It's crazy.
seeing them
Seeing them
together
at the
in New
premiere,
York this
yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had to tell them to not stand next to each other on the red carpet during the photo ops.
If anyone listening to this wants to do a deep dive, there are pictures of them together online, both giving a thumbs up, which are incredible.
The not for nothing too. The Avery making and her team making each of these masks. That was such a feat to make them kind of age differently and
Distinct, yeah.
making them distinct. Yeah. We always go back to Gremlins. Like you got to have something distinct on the.
And just seeing the wall of masks in prep was just like really cool. Just an entire table and wall filled of Ghostface masks.
I love that shot of Leona. Yeah.
You did this as a family?
Hell yeah, bitch.
I remember the bricks were something really, really early.
Crumbling
The
place.
warehouse. What's right?
From the crumbling place.
Yeah, from the crumbling place. Yeah. But it was in the warehouse, and I remember we switched it here, and you were like, well, bricks doesn't, and I was like, they're gonna hold bricks.
Yeah.
Like, I was like
Just
strangely
put a pile of
attached
bricks somewhere.
to someone getting hit in the face with a brick.
I remember that they're prop bricks too, and I remember just watching monitors and being like, they're squeezing the bricks too hard. They're like,
Those are sponges.
those are sponges. Yeah.
Easy it is to convince the world.
Maybe the bricks were part of a display. Maybe it was the car crash in Scream 2.
Because it's not enough to just kill someone these days.
The guy and I always did sort of love the idea of the misinformation. That this was kind of something that
Yeah.
Conspiracy
would
theory.
only happen in 2023 in this era. Like this wouldn't happen to Sidney Prescott.
Yeah.
Like you
That was
couldn't
in our
poison
initial
the well
pitch to
against her, but you
Spyglass.
could against Sam.
Yep.
Makes it more modern and of the time.
Yeah.
Into their own deluded hands.
Exactly. That's why it's a perfect alibi.
I also just love how you guys, because 5 is you're in that kitchen and you can't go anywhere. This is there's so much movement and it's so dynamic and there's so much going on in the frame with the stuff in the background. Like,
This was endless conversations about it. Endless.
This is the hardest scene to block.
Yeah, this was by far the hardest scene
Yeah.
to block. And, I think what we ended up doing is we broke it down into kind of the 3 distinct beats.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, just trying to figure out what that would, how we can move them around. But I will say once we got into the theater, that became a whole different thing because then we had the stage.
Right.
And you could get Dermot up there.
Yeah.
So, Scream Film School, you guys look at a scene like this, how do you start to break it down and figure that out?
Well, first we go, Guy and Jamie just wrote 10 pages of dialogue with no stage direction.
All right, so there's a mourning period. Okay.
So we get really mad at you guys.
Fair.
I think that the conversation starts with, honestly, what don't we want to do? And I think it's that the fear of being locked in the kitchen, of being in a tight space and knowing that it's going to have to evolve and so it's really, I think we all knew early on that we wanted to play with this dynamic of Dermot on one side and Liana and Jack on the other, that really sort of keeping them surrounded in different ways and in different moments.
We talked about Clockwork Orange.
We talked about Clockwork Orange a lot. But that was kind of the guiding principle, that there were lions circling their prey, and that you know that attack is going to happen at some point, and you're just kind of waiting for it. And then I think the sort of added challenge of this space is you have to cut off the ability for them to flee, right? That was a big, just sort of thinking about the logic of how would they escape, and then how would the killers prevent that escape, was always something that we were.
And Dermot holding the gun the whole time was part of that.
Right. And you guys always were like, how do we get him up to the stage for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where, we'd sit with Brett every weekend and just basically shot list, and this is a scene we kept going back to, and it would just be debate.
Right.
Where, I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot.
But I think once we really landed on this idea of, these are Richie's fan films, we're going to see him projected, the idea that Dermot could stand up there and have the ghost of his son on his face as he's delivering part of this speech just felt so emotional and so right.
When did it become Richie's Family? Do you guys remember?
It was pretty early, because we always loved the idea of it being a family doing this. That was sort of the core of it, and I think we were a little bit at first because I remember Kevin saying, it's got to be primal, it's got to be emotional. Not just about this, but sort of about all of them, and I think that Guy and I love the idea behind 5, but the one thing we felt that was missing was there wasn't a primal connection to the victims. It was more intellectual.
Right.
And so once we kind of were like, no, Richie's Family makes sense. Like, if there's a story about family and found family, it makes thematic sense. And we love just the idea of this family of killers hiding in plain sight.
I remember that pitch. I remember the day we were talking about that, the killer, the motive, and you got on with us and you were like, it's Richie's
so
Family.
awesome.
And it was so exactly like, yes, it was an inevitable idea.
Exactly. We came to an inevitable idea, it felt like, And I think that, we wanted to, our resistance initially was just, we didn't want to hew too close to other Scream movies.
Yeah.
Because family is such a, but I think it's the thing you come back to in these types of movies, not just Scream, but slasher. I mean, listen, literally the first Friday the 13th is someone did this to my son, so I'm going to do this to campers. The second one is someone did this to my mother, so I'm going to do this to campers. Like revenge is a very, specifically, it's a good thing for
primal.
a reason.
So did you guys circle it and then walk away from it?
I think, I'm trying to remember, but I don't know. I think we were always into the idea of family. I think maybe we touched it and then walked away from it and then came back, or maybe didn't come to it because of that, but there was a little bit of a push against it at first, and I think we had to kind of just come to Jesus with it.
It really did click, though, in terms of, it is family versus family. It's the Baileys
which
versus...
feels so nice.
Baileys versus Carpenters slash Loomis slash
Meeks Martins, who are the found family, and Gail and Kirby are also part of that found family.
The other thing that I think that we really liked with all of it is the idea of physicalizing the theme moment of you have to let me go. Like, that was a huge thing for us of they have to physically do it in the movie.
This was a real...
Yeah, that was really nice.
And
but
a
it was
real
tough
challenge to
tough
shoot.
to achieve. But,
really challenging to shoot, but really worth it.
I remember just when we switched to movie theater being like, okay, but you still have to drop
that verticality
There's
thing
gotta
has
be a
to
verticality
exist,
to it. Like, oh, Jack.
This was another one that the edit was really interesting on, because you're playing all these different timelines.
Yeah.
Or different sort of just jumping up and down, and we tried different versions.
Moments.
But
they're both such profound moments. You don't want to shortchange any of them.
I do remember Jay, the editor, being like, "Oh, everyone has got a quip." quip.
Zinger.
Yeah, they're quick
Zinger.
machines.
What do you call them? Zingers?
Zingers.
Looks like you're down another brother.
Zinger down there.
There's like 4
Zinger
in a
up
row,
here.
which we love, obviously.
Yeah. This was a late add to the idea that the projection is actually on our characters here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how that theater would actually, the projection would actually work in that theater. So we got a second projector and projected the image simultaneously onto their faces.
Sam killing his daughter right in front of her is pretty
It's
rad.
such a great reveal. It's a brutal reveal.
Pretty excited. I remember being like, more brains, more brains.
I love a good like cut to black guys on a fall.
It's
such
unexpected in
a
this
fun-
movie. And then
yeah.
to go into his point of view, I thought it was really, kind of fun and interesting. We haven't really seen that because we have, Samantha now being Ghostface hunting him.
Which was a late ad. I remember
Yeah.
having Sam call. Originally, it was scripted as her voice, and having her call as Ghostface.
It's kind of a callback to one too.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Sydney's doing it to.
But it just adds the you're in my movie now. It just all feels so much more.
I literally remember sending those by text.
Yeah,
Like I
it
was
was
like
such
Ghostface call written by text.
That's right.
What's your favorite scary?
I think I was like on the elliptical at like 7 in the morning trying to write Ghostface lines.
Be careful what you wish for. What a fucking line. It's so fun.
It is funny how like handmade this movie is. You know, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, we had that kind of like punk rock B-side thing. But it's like I do feel like even though it is a bigger movie and it is
See, you've put on your true face, huh?
all of those things, it is still very much, I feel like we got to put so much more of our personalities into this one and so much more of kind of ourselves in a really fun way.
Yeah, and it felt we keep saying that it feels like a very intuition driven movie, that there wasn't time to like overcook anything because we just didn't have time. So it really was, what's the coolest idea? Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about in the very beginning, which is sort of you were finished with 5, and Guy and I weren't that far with 6. Like, it wasn't like we had worked on the script for a year. Like, it was like, it's like, does everybody want to jump on board this moving train? Because now the good news is 5 worked. The bad news is 5 worked.
Right.
And if we're going to do this, we got to do this quick. By the way, this was about upping the kill count from Richie.
Yeah.
How many?
I think it's 43, including the eye stab.
Yeah.
43. That's nuts.
And Dermot, I remember he was the sound that came out of him, that scream, after we cut, he was like, that is the first time that sound has ever come out of my body.
Amazing.
Please use it.
This is just to say how so many people have such a major impact on this movie. Like that fire behind this, which gives it such an identity. That was because the stuff that Adam shot and Adriana shot, he gave us this thing with the fire. And when we saw it, we were like, whoa, that's got to be the...
Loop that. We want it
It's gotta be
5
a
times
loop
longer.
it. Yeah.
This whole sequence should sort of play to that.
But it's all of those things, everybody kind of throws in an idea and the idea gets changed and moved, but it all becomes this bigger thing that everybody can have ownership over, which is so rad.
Totally. I love you talking about the background during Dermot getting stabbed.
Well,
in the eye. No, it's totally true, and it
It's
gives it
such a big part of it.
It's such a big, and her emerging from the fire. And the fire there, and then,
like everything, the flare visually, it's just all, it's such a...
And Jenna, was it Jenna's idea to give the permission?
No, that was ours. We were blocking it.
I love it because I remember you called.
We were blocking it. It felt like
we got
stuck. What a moment of togetherness. Yeah,
we got
stuck.
stuck, which always happens with us when we get in fights. We've learned through the years that it's because
there's something
else. There's a third way. Yeah, totally.
That's what it is.
So this font is the font of the original television program, Twin Peaks, the first 2 seasons. And this, I believe, Adam put in for me because he knew what a huge Twin Peaks fan I was.
Huge Twin Peaks.
Huge Twin Peaks.
This also is, the first time I saw what you did here, I was like, oh, it's Last Shot of Ready or Not.
Yeah. Brett literally said when we were in the
Brett
DI,
entering the movie.
He said, guys, we got to come up with some new ideas.
Can't just rip ourselves off.
Hey, steal from the best,
You
right?
know, exactly right. Look, we're just stealing from the masters, Brett. I'm sorry.
This is another one of our favorite scenes in the movie because you just they're just so connected and so good. And it when we first saw the assembly, we had all the logic questions of, well, like, is Kirby right over there? What about Chad?
Yeah.
I'm serious.
But none of it matters.
Just don't let that
Just
air
don't
in.
let that
It's
air
not
in.
about
If you
that.
don't, yeah, exactly right.
It's not about that. Yeah.
This also, if with audiences, it's like the first time you're not waiting for a pop-up.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like you're not like, oh, someone's probably going to come back to. I mean, I don't think. And so this genuinely popped people in the theater.
Brutal and definitive.
Yes.
I'm going to say it about that. But the idea of using the television again was early. And
That was early.
Very exciting to us.
Yeah,
Such
we
a fun
loved it.
moment. Such a fun moment.
And Danny went and got the cops. And it's great. Whenever, by the way, whenever you get the cops, you're supposed to go there with them and be in charge of them. So you want to like, all right, fan out.
Some pushing.
Yeah. It's very important. Get out of my way. Crime scene. Let me, the civilian, in first.
I need some reinforcements. And I called Mount Sinai and Mindy. And...
Also, the cops will be taking no one back to the station or questioning no one.
I remember you really protecting this scene too, Jamie. There was a conversation about like, okay, is there a way to like tighten up the end of the movie?
Oh, to get out of the movie quicker, yeah.
And I'm so glad that you fought to keep that the idea that Danny, you really trust him. Like he's a good guy. That we have to close the loop on that character.
Family now.
I also think, again, kudos to Brian and Sven with the music. It's sort of the sting they give him when he comes in sort of makes you go, oh, no, he's cool.
Yeah, it's
Like-
such a warm moment.
Yeah.
This day of shooting was a catastrophe. We had a stage 5 hurricane blew through Montreal, and we had to split up the day and come back, return to this location.
It's the wind coming off the
Rained
Hudson.
more the day we came back. Yeah.
Tyler, that's you, right? We got one more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got another one here.
There it is.
Such a moment. Core fucking 4.
Yeah, I think if you're mad at us because everyone lived, cool. We own it.
Yeah,
We're okay with that.
Fine
Yeah,
with
I
that.
love it.
Be
We're
mad.
okay fine with that.
And Quinn? Fuck! Did I miss the
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe Mindy could have limped up, but yeah.
Look, it's a hurricane. Oh, she's on a lot of drugs, as we
on
learned.
a lot of drugs.
A lot of drugs.
drugs, by the way? Maybe I should get
Twist on the twist.
Twist on a twist.
What do you mean?
I love how you guys staged this.
Well, this is one of the things you guys did in the script that was so rad that like we got to really have fun with. Were these kind of like quiet Sam internal monologue moments?
The darkness.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
the
also
darkness
sort of, but it's
stuff.
also really tricky. Like it's one thing to be like, the darkness is creeping in. Now visualize that. Like,
Jay is our editor is particularly great with that stuff too. I know
He's
that
so
he
good with
really
it, yeah.
loved those moments with Billy. They felt like you're kind of entering this psychosis for a few moments.
love this shot.
Yeah, we love that you guys wrote a thing that we could do kind of a classic movie end of like just
like
they
the
walk
pull,
off
the pull up,
into
the sirens. It's like, oh man, we're kind of at the end of Die Hard.
And
Huh, look
I
at
was
that.
literally just thinking, I'm like, we clearly all just watched Die Hard way too much.
Yeah,
Right.
but like, I also love that it's like it takes you a while to be like, oh, Danny's walking with them. He just kind of he kind of like tucked in with them.
Yeah, Josh came. He was on set all day for that one shot.
There you go. Brett
love
leaving the
him so
movie.
much.
He's reached the second story, climbing towards the third.
Bye, Brett.
Also, a ton of really great VFX work in that final shot, that
Shotgun.
skyline.
Also, Mike Shinoda, Demi Lovato.
Demi Lovato.
Amazing.
Guys, made another Scream movie.
There it
Hard to
is. He
believe.
screamed.
That was it.
That was it. That was the Sony Scream movie.
Screamed again.
I love the. When did you guys come up with this idea for the credits? Because it's classical, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it was a conversation with the company Picture Mill who put these together. I think we knew that we wanted the character cards to be projected on that old tattered movie screen.
Right.
And then this showed up as a concept that also felt really connected to the theater at the end of the movie, and it just felt so great, so organic, and so much a part of that same idea.
And you know how we did the last one was very much homage to
Yes,
the original. It was
absolutely.
nice to kind of switch things
Touch
up
it.
here.
By the way, that felt very Batman '89. Just to say it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Picking these is always like the most fun part of the process. Yeah.
We honestly talk a lot about got to make sure that the characters all smile like while we're shooting a scene, like that there's some moment of them smiling because it's such a
So,
satisfying
you know,
scene.
we really had a good time. Some of us made it, some of us didn't, but. See, there's Roger smiling. First Roger Jackson on his own card.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm correct.
He
Yeah.
shared
Oh,
one
nice.
last time.
He's so incredible.
He's so
He really
incredible.
It's just like, it's amazing.
Yeah, Roger is like the unsung hero of all of these.
And called in for the Gale scene, too, because that doesn't always happen.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts, gentlemen?
Tell us about Scream 7, guys.
I don't know, but this could be it.
Pitch it over the
This
credits.
could be it. Right here.
I will say one of the things I love about the way we all work, and we talked about this before, but it's that, you know, we do treat each movie like the last one. You know, it's like, let's not leave a bunch of stuff for later. Like, let's put it all into this and
Full
trust
meal.
that we'll come up with other stuff.
It's fascinating too, because doing interviews and stuff like that, like there are people who literally don't believe us. They're like, yeah, but like you set some stuff up for 6, right? Because obviously you set up the Tara and Chad romance. We're like,
We did?
no, we didn't do any work towards that at all.
Is that part of the fun for you guys too? Like knowing that you're gonna have to get into the sandbox and find new ways to sort of challenge yourselves without any kind of preconceived notion of what it could be?
I think so.
Yeah, I totally think so. And I think that I'm also like, I've worked, I won't mention them, I've worked on movies where there's a lot of comments like, oh man, when we get to the sequel, we're gonna do X, you know, it's like, and then there ain't no sequel. And so there's a little bit of a, you know, a hubris thing to it too, where it's just like, make every movie like it's the last Scream
Don't
movie.
hold on to your good ideas.
No, get it all in the field, and if you get the opportunity to do another one, you're so lucky enough to do it, then you can start to have the conversation. But that's how Guy and I have always approached it.
And if there was a good idea that is lingering, then if it comes back around, then it was the right thing to put in the new idea.
Guy, was there anything from we didn't use in 5 that we put in this?
I mean, there was the Kirby discussion, so we finally got to do that.
That's true.
I want to say there was, but it's not coming to my mind.
No, I don't know if there was a gag or a, like... Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything. I think we left it all out on the Montreal-New York field.
Love it. Yeah, watching all of the names in the crawl, I mean, gotta just say it, every single person here did so much for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That crew was amazing.
Really, yeah, the crew was
And
incredible.
I mean, just, the production side, just so fast, so committed.
Yeah.
And nice.
Yeah.
And
Because they're Canadian.
I've made a few movies in Montreal, and I remember saying to you guys, like, you are going to have the best experience up there.
We truly
It's just
did.
a
It really was
great
amazing.
city to make a movie in, and you know.
And New York is a really hard city to double.
Yeah.
It really truly is, and they did such a great job.
Especially when you know New Yorkers are going to watch the movie.
Right. Yeah.
And be like, the New York Times is like, where did everyone grow up? I just want to check that. Well, gentlemen,
it's been so fun.
Yeah,
it's
that
been
was a
so
blast.
fun.
Love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you for your time and your talent. And
It's a shame that this is the last movie we'll ever make together.
yeah, no, it's we're all going.
Goodbye.
We're all going our separate
Goodbye,
ways
gentlemen.
after this. It's,
See you in Dublin in a month.
the door's been locked. Yeah.
See you in a few weeks.
Oh, real quick while we're here,
Oh, yeah.
soundtrack. We put a lot of time into the soundtrack.
Yes.
Like, we're all kids of soundtrack movies, you know? I think a lot of us, I know for me, it's like, you think of like Top Gun, Big Chill, like
Absolutely.
Dirty Dancing, just all of these, Young Guns too, like all of
Scream
these.
2. I love that soundtrack.
They're all, yeah, so we put, like, there's nothing is in here by accident. Like, everything is a real choice that we put a lot of time into, and we hope you like it.
Yes, absolutely. And since we're so close to it, hey, Tim Robinson, Jack Quaid, Tom Knoll. Since we're so close to it, very proud of you guys for creating the first Scream post-credit sequence.
Oh, yes.
Truly a treat.
Really,
It's coming up
truly a treat.
in moments.
I know people were very excited to see how it set up Scream 7, all of the Easter eggs we left for that.
We've had a lot of people reach out and say, I hate you for that. I love it.
I love it. It is my favorite post-credit sequence of all time. Thank you all for watching and
Thanks,
listening.
guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Not every movie needs a post-credit scene.